Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we have an exciting what if story for you. If you enjoy these kinds of videos and want to see more, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. What if Naruto is a humanoid dragon? Episode 2. Now, let's get started. The village of Konoha. Naruto walked back to his home as he was accompanied by Fenrix. The day had been very long and hard at the moment, as he had witnessed a good numbers of battles. He had been tasked to face Kiba and Akamaru, but the fight did not last long as Kiba, who was not happy with fighting him at his new state, and both he and Akamaru did their best, but he had easily defeated them. But naturally he didn't harm Kiba too much. His bracers limited his full power, even his strength, though his strength was greater than it was before when he was not able to awaken his powers, and this allowed him to defeat Kiba well enough despite Akamaru's help. He had to admit that Kiba gave as good as he got, but with his dragon skin, no amount of attacks Kiba and Akamaru threw at him could easily harm him. Though it still stung a bit as his scales, according to Fenrix, were still developing and needed more time to fully adapt to his body. The other fights were pretty interesting as he looked on. The fight between Zaku and Shino was interesting enough, and Fenrix looked at the battle with a critical eye and knew that the destruction bugs were the key to Shino's victory, as this allowed him a unique combat advantage over the other foes he would be facing at the moment. Another fight was naturally the one between Kin and Shikamaru, where his former classmate was proving to be very good in his own right, as well as any other ninja, despite his apparent laziness through the use of his shadow manipulation Kekai Genkai. The end of the fight was somewhat amusing to Fenrix, who had admitted he had seen such a move before, but said that the ones used by the Nara clan were not as powerful as the much older form. Nevertheless, he congratulated it and considered the Nara clan to be very good in their use of the old ascendant bloodline that their clan had in them. The fight between Ino and Sakura was rather interesting as the two fought it out with whatever skills and abilities they had. Ino was the stronger of the two, but Sakura was just as determined, and he was surprised with the use of Bushin that was similar to his own, and while the fight had ended in a double knockout, and that meant that Sakura was no longer able to compete in the semi-finals, he was happy that Sakura finally showed that she had what it took to be a Kunoichi. And he noted the fact that despite their fighting, the friendship that was between the two was still there. Fenrix noted that as well and respected that and said that while this was a simple battle by most if not all standards, it was a good fight. It was also when Kakashi arrived on the scene to see how things were going. There were two fights however that got his attention completely, and the same could be said for Fenrix. The first battle was the battle between Hinata and Neji. From the very second the battle started, he was getting enraged by the way Neji was belittling Hinata, and the side of the girl he once thought to be shy, dark, and weird was somehow enraging him. To hear her try to defend herself and the way she looked made Naruto even more angry at Neji's actions. He shouted to Neji to shut up and he then told Hinata to stand up for herself and prove to Neji that she could change no matter what and beat the snot out of him. Hinata did her very best but was beaten. However, he saw that she had done her best. And she was alright as Kakashi, Guy, and Kurenai stopped Neji from landing a fatal blow. Flashback. HMPH. Typical of the main family getting all the treatment. Neji however was unable to finish his words when a shout came right at him. Shut up. Neji barely had enough time to move out of the way as Naruto came right at him with a fist surrounded by a vortex of wind, and the fist ripped through the floor like it was nothing more than kindling, surprising everyone, including Kakashi. Naruto moved away from the clouds, covered in the same tornado aura, and his eyes were glowing a bit and his teeth were bare. He lifted his fist and spoke to Neji as the winds whirled about him. I am going to rip that damn tongue out of your mouth with my bare hands. Fenrix however stepped in, and so did Kakashi, despite the fact that Jonin had no idea what was going on at the moment. Naruto, that is enough. Kakashi held one side of Naruto's shoulder, while Fenrix held Naruto's coiled fist, and the senior dragon ascendant watched as the bracers quickly reacted and Naruto's powers began to subside, and the tornado stopped, and the tattoos faded from Naruto's body, and the blonde genin turned to see to Hinata. She tried to say something to him, but she fell unconscious. Naruto looked at the blood there from Hinata and touched it, and then turned to Neji and snorted and spoke to Neji. If you and I ever fight, mark my words, you are going to apologize for what you have said, because I will beat the crap out of you like you've never felt before. End of flashback. The next fight was the one between Gaara and Lee. He had thought Lee was fast, but when it seemed that Lee's Taijutsu couldn't match Gaara's sand, Lee was told by Guy to remove his weights, and then things took a very interesting turn as the weights fell off. The very second the weights hit the floor and actually shook the building, he was able to see the genin go full throttle, and he knew just about everyone who saw this, with the exception of Neji and Guy, were surprised at how fast Lee was moving and hitting. Even Fenrix was impressed somewhat. The battle went to Gaara's corner, and Lee unleashed his special skill and unlocked his chakra gates, and to the shock of him and everyone about, he tore the battleground like Swiss cheese in a grinder, but even that was not enough to keep Lee's foe down for the count. Gaara recovered and was more than ready to fight and was able to cripple Lee. The sight of Lee's body still standing before Gaara and Guy despite the fact his left arm and leg were broken was amazing. The guy was fighting in pure instinct and body memory, and Guy was very sad for this, and even Kakashi had to apologize to Guy for not showing Lee more credit as he was very powerful to reach the 5 gates. All in all, after the matches, he was told that he and the others would have a month to get ready for the soon-to-come semi-final matches, and it was going to be something that he was looking forward to. He was eager to start his training so he wouldn't be left behind. He hoped that Kakashi would be able to teach him, but Kakashi was in a special meeting with the Hokage and just about every other Jonin, Chunin, and even the clan heads. Despite the fact that he was not very interested in politics, he couldn't help but wonder what that meeting was all about. As he arrived, he was surprised to see a number of Anbu at his apartment, and there was none other than the Hokage himself who seemed to be overseeing some sort of moving program. Naruto wanted to know what was going on and why were Anbu and the Hokage at his house of all things. "Hey old man, what's going on here?" The Hokage turned and replied. "We need to have the apartment refurbished and rebuilt in order to make extra room for several other dignitaries, so this place is being rebuilt at this moment by several workers and it has to be cleaned and cleared out. Your furniture and other amenities are going to be stored in the Hokage Tower until Naruto." Naruto couldn't help but feel a bit shocked at the news. "But where the heck am I going to live this time? I don't have enough money to buy a brand new home, old man." The Hokage however gave a sly smile and replied to Naruto's question. "Balin had made special plans, remember? He had a home built for you in secret and it is now yours. Fenrix I believe knows more about it than I do, so it would be best that your guardian explain it to you." "Balin made me a home? Where is it?" Fenrix grinned. He had secretly visited the home that his master had prepared for Naruto nearly years before. Normally houses took weeks or months to make. But with the Dragon King, those houses would be done in mere days, but it was also very secret as no one in Konoha had any idea of its location or what was hidden deep beneath it. It was not a house in the standards of most humans, but something else entirely. As the two left, Sarutobi looked on and sighed as he looked back at the ninja, who were busy packing up Naruto's supplies and gear for him to pick up later. He then thought back on how the discussion with Jonin and Chunin went when he told them of the latest developments. Flashback. As soon as all the Jonin and Chunin were in the meeting hall and also the head of the clans in Konoha, as well as members of the council, he began the special meeting, not just concerning Orochimaru, but also the discovery and awakening of Naruto's Kekkei Genkai, and naturally his moving out of his old home apartment and into his new clan house. Naturally a lot of the Jonin, Chunin and clan heads were quite surprised by the news that was given to them at the moment, and they were still debating what to do with this kind of information. The same was true for Kakashi as he was still trying to get used to the idea that his Genin team not only had one Kekkei Genkai user, namely Sasuke, but another, who could manipulate wind in a way that even Asuma could not. Asuma was one of the few wind users in Konoha and thus was more knowledgeable of the use of wind chakra. The clan heads were also interested and were eager to see the Kekkei Genkai of Naruto in action, though many of them were not all that convinced of its powers. As the meeting was adjourned, he told Kakashi to stay and turned as there was yet another guest who had remained in the shadow, and Kakashi already knew who it was. "It's good to see you again, Jiraiya-sama." "It's good to see you too Kakashi, you've matured a lot since I last saw you, so, how's it dealing with Naruto?" "He's a handful, that much I can be certain. You know already that he is a clan head. Sarutobi-sensei told me, you realize that as soon as the news comes out, things for Naruto are going to get very interesting." "I know, but what brings you back here Jiraiya-sensei?" "I came here for mere research, but also to give my report. I know Orochimaru is here and the target is Sasuke, no surprise there, that Kekkei Genkai will seriously interest him with the ability to see and copy. So what sort of abilities does Naruto's Kekkei Genkai have?" Sarutobi filled the two of them in, and Jiraiya was grinning. "I can't wait to see this in action." End of flashback. As he walked back to his home, the Hokage couldn't help but wonder just how Naruto would react to the sight of his new home. In another part of Konoha, the two dragon ascendants arrived in a massive valley a fair distance from Konoha, and as soon as they got there, Naruto was not able to see any buildings and he looked at Fenrix, who just smiled. "So where is this new home of mine Fenrix-sensei? Allow me to show you." Fenrix made some gestures and to Naruto's eyes, he saw a shimmering of light and then out of nowhere was a massive hill made of pure stone that had several unique patterns of rock and metal about it and he could have sworn the patterns had a soft but very powerful glow at the moment and there was something about this place that tugged at his senses. He watched as Fenrix touched a wall and the wall seemed to shimmer and there was a long tunnel there. As they walked through the tunnel, they went deeper into the earth and finally they arrived at another door and as soon as Fenrix touched the door and pointed for Naruto to do the same, the doors parted and in that moment they were in the main hall. Naruto looked at the main hall of his new home and was impressed to the point his eyes became saucers and his jaw dropped. He thought living underground meant that he was living in some sort of dank, smelly, dirty cave. Not this. The main hall looked like a mansion. In the middle was a beautiful foundation with cool clear water and statues made of pure marble that resembled dragons. There were benches made of solid marble as well which were covered in soft leather. Light was coming through several large openings and was distributed all over the halls by both water and apparently light-emitting crystals shaped like trees that glowed softly, giving the place a very soft but strong amount of light. There were underground streams that were moving through and were cool to the touch and to Naruto's amazement were drinkable. The walls were smooth and covered in small gems and inlaid with copper mirrors which appeared to be well polished, as well as silver and gold designs that made the place even more grandiose than before. And in the areas were healthy trees and bushes, giving out a sweet scent to the cave. The floors were made from tiles that combined marble, jade, and smooth limestone and were very strong. All in all, the main hall was impressive. Fenrix couldn't help but chuckle at the look of awe in his student's face as he gazed at the main hall of his brand new home. It was befitting someone who earned the favor of a dragon king as well as the new head of a clan in his mind. And it seemed the same for Naruto as he moved about and explored his new home's main hall. "Naruto, we have yet to see the rest of your home, come on." Naruto nodded and the two of them approached two massive stone doors which had intricate designs and Naruto pressed his hand on the doors as he found himself marveling at it. He was then surprised to see the intricate designs glow pale blue and then the doors seemed to move and slide into the walls and Fenrix spoke to his charge. "The doors are at least 2 feet thick of specially enchanted limestone that are held in place by pure magic and are only designed to open for the owner of this house. Namely you, this applies to all the doors as well in this home of yours. Now let us take a good look at your home." The hallways were also lined with soft glowing crystals and the gentle sounds of water flowing on small canals on the sides of the walls were rather soothing to the ears. On the sides were bowls that had pools of water in them and when he tried some, the water was cool, enriching and fresh. In Naruto's mind, it was amazing. They arrived and opened another set of doors in before Naruto was yet another hall, a lot larger than the main hall, but in it were beautiful statues made of jade and marble, as well as metal. There were stone tables in a semicircle there in the middle, as well as smaller tables in the sides and benches of stone which had soft leather there as well. There were 4 large crystal formations that were giving light into the main hall through filtering openings above. The walls were also smooth and supported by pillars of stone and metal, which were also smooth and cool to the touch, and there were some trees and bushes which were very healthy and gave a soothing refreshing smell like a fresh forest into the hall. There were chairs there on each table, with one being a little larger than the others as well. And there was a large open floor there as well. There was a massive staircase at the back with several stone doors there as well. On the right were also 2 sets of doors, and there was also another set of doors on the left. Naruto could only say a single word. Amazing. Yes it is, this is the main dining and entertainment hall. This is where you can have your food and where to feed and entertain your guests as well. The first set of doors to the right lead to the food storage chamber where the food and drink are preserved for your use. The second set of doors lead to the main kitchen where your food is prepared. Would you like to take a look at them? Oh yeah. I want to see the kitchens. Good, I figured you would like that. Come on. The kitchens were larger than his old apartment and like the halls, they were very good, clean, well maintained, well lit, and there were kilns, roasting pits, piles of wood, coal, fuel and more. The kitchens also had all the things needed to staff a kitchen such as condiments, dishes, utensils, cooking tools and more. Naruto was impressed greatly at the sight of the kitchen as it made his older kitchen look so small. The blonde genin looked the place over and he could see that there were some strange symbols on the place and he touched them and the place came alive and it was when Fenrix explained to Naruto how the kitchen worked. This place is run by natural energy drawn from the very heart of this world and so it can take care of itself. The symbols you touched will activate this place. All you have to do is to make the dish and when everything is in place it in the appropriate cooking device and then place your hand on the symbols and then use the power of your mind to project the dish and how it is made and the cooking device will do the rest. This will also function like any moral kitchen if you want and will for others who come here. Cool. Isn't it? The storage place is similar to the shape of this kitchen, but as its name states, it stores food and ingredients and stores them in special containers that only stores massive quantities, but can also retain the freshness of all food and drink items that are stored in them, so you can have enough food and drink to feed a large number of people here in great safety. This entire place is protected by the very energy of the world, and thus only one who wields the same kind of power can even break through the outer walls. The two left the kitchen and they went to the other side of the dining hall and entered one of the other doors, and they found themselves in a large room, and there were blowers, a massive fire pit, piles of wood and coal, bars of metal were there, as well as prongs, large hammers, and a set of anvils. On the other side where there was no danger of fire were books and scrolls in well-made shelves of stone and metal. There was even a table that had mortar and pestle, along with vials, powder bags and more. The place was also lit by crystals and had several open vents and a massive chimney in the area above the fire pit. Naruto then noted several molding stones in the area as well as working benches, and he couldn't help but wonder just what this place was at the moment, and Fenrix was the one who told him. This is your special creation hall. This place is part armory, part forge, part alchemist lab, and part library, so you don't need to have too many places to go to. Here you can learn many things on whatever subject interests you, and where you can create weapons, armor and more if it helps, as well as potions and herbal mixtures. Why do I need armor? That is entirely your decision, Naruto, but keep in mind that you are still very much a hatchling when it comes to your ascendant heritage, so any form of protection will certainly be worth the time to learn, so do not think that you do not need some extra edges in combat, should the need come to that. The books and scrolls also have information on the making of potions that can be highly effective for you and others, along with salves, oils, kits, and more using the native ingredients, and secretly hidden ones that only those who are taught by dragons can find. Valen had been in your world long enough to know how to find the places that time and humanity had either forgotten or chose to forget, and he stored them here in this place. The Dragon King's wisdom is worth 100 years worth of human knowledge. So do not take these books and scrolls lightly. Naruto nodded as he began to grasp the implications of what Fenrix was saying. They then left the creation hall, and then entered a massive hall that was bare of all the other things he had seen in the other halls. There were only glowing crystals, vents, and several pools of cool spring water in the hall. The floor didn't have elegant tiles, but soft flat earth and the walls lacked the designs and more. Compared to the halls Naruto had seen, this place was very sparse and Spartan-like in design and form, but he could sense great amounts of power in the place. What is this place? This is the training hall. This is obviously where you can train using your powers and abilities, and as such, this hall is specially filled with hidden wards and symbols that reinforce it. And considering the fact that you will learn to use a variety of powers that will rely on your ascendant Kekai Genkai, this place is going to be seeing a great deal of hard use soon enough. That is the reason why this place is specially reinforced to make sure it does not collapse, so don't let the Spartan appearance fool you. We can come back here for your training later, as we still need to see the rest of your home, so let's move on for now. The two left the training hall, and then they made their way to the staircase located in the back of the dining hall, and they were in a massive hallway that branched off to the sides, and they went to one of the hallways and found themselves before a smaller door, and when Naruto opened it, he found a well-furnished room with a soft bed, with the framework made of stone and the mattress being very soft and comfortable, as well as the pillows and the lush covering. There was a well-polished silver mirror that reflected Naruto's face and form like glass. There was also a large drawer there made from wood, and there was another door that led to a room that had a pool of water that had a pair of gems on it. One was red and the other was deep blue, and there seemed to be something of a sprinkler on the wall that was overhead near it as well. What is this place? This is a simple guest room. The gems on this pool will allow the user to condition the water to be either hot or cold and adapting to human needs, and the sprinkler acts as a shower of sorts. This place has at least 60 of these rooms in this area, simple and functional, but comfortable. How does air get in here? The air is regulated by both the plants that are sustained here and drawn in by mystical means, so this entire compound is routinely supplied with air, so there is no danger of anyone suffering asphyxiation. The same goes for these rooms, and the air is able to be regulated to be comfortably cool or warm, depending on the desires of the person residing in the room. Let's move on to your room. I think you might find that place a lot more to your interest. Naruto and Fenrix moved to the hallway, and they headed for the large double doors, and when those parted, Naruto looked at his own room in wonder as this room was something else entirely. It was spacious and the bed was large, not large in the sense that it was taking up the whole room, but it was a lot larger than his old bed. The place was well furbished as there were closets made from well-carved and conditioned wood. There were also chairs there and a trio of silver mirrors, and when he saw his personal bathroom, it was very well made, a large pool there for him to swim in, and the water was clean and clear, and there were two gems there, one red and the other deep blue. There was also a small pool there, and both were fed by a spring of water that was still flowing. There were glowing crystals there as well. So how do you find your new home, Naruto? It's amazing to think that this is now my own home, and Valen made it for me. It's just amazing. This entire compound is the result of Master Valen's preparations for you to awaken to your powers. The reason your powers really took so long to awaken was due to your demon residing. Really? Did Kyuubi do something to block my ascendant blood? That is correct, it had somehow restrained your powers, but it was not going to have an easy time of it, and when that grass genin struck you, he had inadvertently broke the Kyuubi's hold on Valen's blood, and now you know the result. If he only knew that his plan to disable you has made you stronger, the look on his face would be priceless. Now come, we need to begin your training as soon as possible. In the training hall. Naruto was in the training hall, and as they spared with one another, Naruto learned that Fenrix was not kidding, that he was a lot better than him, as his movements were fluid, precise, and accurate, and his hits were certainly painful, and the blonde realized that if he had fought Fenrix as a normal person, he would have been asking for quite a beating indeed. They threw punches at one another and kicks as well, and Naruto did his best to hit his ascendant mentor, but Fenrix was no easy mark. Come on Naruto, move faster. I am moving normally here, use your speed and power at once. The training was very difficult despite his stamina and agility. Naruto was quick to run out of breath, and Fenrix knew it, but he pushed Naruto on, and it was there that Naruto got more serious and pushed himself further, showing his dedication and determination, much to Fenrix's approval of the situation. The more effort Naruto placed on his training, the better he would become, as well as developing the needed control to fully master his still growing powers. As the two continued to spar, Naruto finally felt his legs give way, but Fenrix caught him and spoke to his student. You did well. Now let's get a drink. The senior dragon ascendant helped Naruto reach one of the pools, and when Naruto took a drink, the water tasted delicious and made him recover his strength, and with a nod from Fenrix, who then got the blonde genin and dragon ascendant to his feet, and he began to explain to him some things. Do you recall what you did during the preliminaries of the Chunin exams? Yes, what about that time? Well, if you are not familiar with the 5 elemental forms of chakra, I'll repeat for you, there are 5 elemental chakras in your world: fire element chakra, wind element chakra, water element chakra, earth element chakra, and lightning element chakra. Now each of them has a corresponding level of strength and weakness. Fire can beat wind, as wind is weaker than fire and only helps make fire stronger. Wind however beats lightning, while lightning defeats earth then defeats water, and water naturally defeats fire. Okay, but why are you telling me this? The reason is that this is for the use of ninjutsu, but as an ascendant, you have a tie to the natural world which has not been seen here for millennia, and as far as I know, most ninja have 1 or 2 elemental affinities. In the case of what I have seen on Kakashi, he has the lightning element, and for Sasuke, he commands fire, which is obvious as the Uchiha clan are known for fire techniques. And while you have your own elemental affinity to discover, your ascendant powers are able to draw energy from the very fabric of the elements and the earth itself. As such, you have a gift that many ninja will not easily see. Let me show you just what I mean by that statement. Fenrix focused his powers slightly, and his tattoos came to life, and to Naruto's amazement, his tattoos resembled waves of flame or fire-like patterns, and were colored fiery gold and red, and then Fenrix moved his fist to create a large aura of flame that covered his hands. So fire is your element? No, you are about to see what I mean. Naruto was stunned as Fenrix merely calmed himself and his tattoos changed form into resembling lightning bolts and spheres that emitted lightning and color, and he began to manipulate the arcs of pure lightning before him in his hands, as his tattoos were glowing gold at the moment, and the senior dragon ascendant then moved the lighting to attack one of the nearby targets, reducing the tall pillar of wood into nothing but charred pieces, and Fenrix smiled at Naruto. Now you try it. Summon your powers and say the word lightning. Naruto calmed himself and focused his powers and spoke. Dragon King blood. Release. Lightning. As soon as Naruto said that, his tattoos activated and the tattoos took the symbols of lightning bolts and spheres and were glowing golden at the moment, and as soon as the transformation was complete, he saw arcs of lightning moving on his hands and he felt no pain as the lightning moved about on his arms and body. Wow. Fenrix nodded and explained patiently to Naruto just what was going on. As you can see, the technique you are using at the moment is what is called elemental manipulation. This is what a dragon ascendant is capable of with initial training, and he or she can use the technique to unleash torrents of fire at their foes, create earth shields for defense, unleash boulders at larger targets, fire currents of pure lightning through the ground and in the air, fire waves of water at their foes, unleash funnels of wind to send their opponents flying, and more. Cool. You're going to teach me all that? When do we start? Not so fast, hatchling. First, there are some basic rules you need to both know and follow before you try this exercise. What are those? First, these abilities require that you practice how to shift elements when in a combat situation. Using the right element in the right moment can be critical. In simple terms, using the right weapon for the right battle. The second is that you need to develop control. At the moment you still need to say the words in order to effect the shift. A fully trained ascendant can shift the elements merely by thinking about the shift and what element they wish to use when the battlefield changes. Allow me to show you what I mean exactly by that. Fenrix then began to show Naruto just what he meant, as the tattoos merely shifted into a new style of appearance and color, and he was now manipulating a column of earth that rose from the ground in the training hall, much to the awe of the blonde ninja and dragon ascendant. And then he raised 2 more pillars, and then he shifted the tattoos once more, and he then unleashed a massive number of fireballs from his hands that blew the first pillar into chunks, and then the other one was hit by a massive wave of water. Fenrix then leaped into the air as his tattoos changed to match Naruto's tattoos in the fight with the rain genin, and he delivered a powerful diving kick to the pillar he was standing on earlier with the wind on his feet, allowing him to slice through the pillar and land before Naruto, who was utterly impressed with what he had seen at this moment in time. Wow. That was awesome. Fenrix nodded and then replied. True. But this is using each element separately. When fully trained and mastering each element without relying on words. Then a fully trained and mature dragon ascendant can control all 5 elements at once and use them for both attack and defense. You're kidding. Fenrix smiled back and then he focused his tattoos and then they took the color of the 5 different elements and in a moment, Naruto was surprised to see a ring of fire moving around Fenrix, which was joined by arcs of lightning, a sphere of air surrounded by floating chunks of earth and a ring of pure water. All 5 elements at once. Fenrix then revealed the power of the technique as he unleashed a combined stream of wind and fire at the very same time and destroyed a nearby pillar of earth in a heartbeat. He then unleashed water and lightning in a combined strike, with water going first, hitting the other targets with the power of a tsunami, and then the lightning took its turn and was amplified in power by water. Massive pillars of lightning were seen by Naruto hitting the other targets and they were obliterated instantly. Fenrix then unleashed a massive wave of stone to bombard the other target and then combined earth and wind to convert the earth into sand that was blinding. Replicating the very way Gaara fought as well, much to Naruto's amazement. Naruto was awed, and when Fenrix finished using the transformation and the 5 elemental combination, Naruto was eager to learn. Can you teach me that? Please. Fenrix couldn't help but laugh a bit at the expression on Naruto's face, and he knew that while he couldn't teach Naruto that style of combat just yet as that style of elemental manipulation requires years of training, if not decades or centuries. Not until you master the basics of all 5 elements, as you need to do that before you can be able to use the 5 elements together in unison. What I showed you is but a demonstration and therefore this style of combat is a lot more powerful than even you can imagine at the moment. Now that you have an idea of the kind of training that you are about to undergo, you need to get ready as best you can, you have at least a month to prepare. Naruto however was not deterred and replied. I'll master as best I can, don't you worry about that. Fenrix grinned and decided that for the time being he would tell him about being the head of his own clan, he was familiar with the needs of starting a clan and what were the rules and more. He also had to explain some important things about Naruto's ascendant heritage that was very important and was for his ears alone at the moment. It would soon be revealed to the rest of the Konoha Council, though the dragon ascendant knew for a fact that the very second they heard about this. Naruto was going to be for a lot more than he could possibly handle, but then again, his student was not the kind to be bothered by odds all that much, and that was fine by him. Before we get down to training, I suggest we take the time to talk about your new role as head of your own clan. There are some important considerations that you must know so you are better prepared for it. The last thing you need is to be caught doing something indecent which will not only embarrass you, but also put your clan in a very bad light. Alright then. Tell me. First off is the matter of clan numbers, since you are the very first of your clan, then you will need others to make up your clan. There are 2 ways this can be done, you can adopt others into your ranks, or you can have a wife and have children who will be recognized as clan members. A wife? Do I need to have a wife? Of course Naruto, a clan can't survive without the head of the clan having heirs to it, you know. But due to the fact that your clan is relatively new to the scene, I believe an old rule is to be used in allowing your clan to grow, and that is polygamy, and before you ask, that word means that you can have more than one wife. Naruto's jaw dropped at that statement, having one wife to him was surprising enough. But more than one wife? You can't be serious. I'm afraid so. There are instances of this happening as clans which are new have to have many blood-related members to ensure that the clan's Kekkei Genkai will remain with them and also to ensure that if there are wars, there will be enough of them to fight and survive at the end of the war. This also ensures that the clan has heirs to take the place of their head leader should anything happen to the leader. Having more than one wife can also help improve not just the already existing Kekkei Genkai, but introduce new abilities that could strengthen the clan, take for example this situation. Suppose you have a child with one of your wives who has exceptional control over the element of water. The result is that any children born of that union would have a greater affinity for that type of element, thus improving the power of the clan. And considering the fact that your Kekai Genkai is pure, it works both ways. The child will not only have your powers, but the traits of your wife will be enhanced by your own powers. You mean, if they have a Kekai Genkai, then my ascendant blood can make it stronger? Yes, it might also unlock portions of the power that was once thought lost. Take for example, the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. At the moment, the Byakugan is powerful, but in its pure and undegraded form, the range was much better, and it would eliminate the little-known blind spot that exists there, and it could go a step further by being able to see beyond the physical and see the spiritual and emotional. Now let's suppose that you have a wife from the Hyuga clan, who would naturally be Hinata Hyuga herself, as she is the heiress to the clan. Naruto blushed bright red at the thought of Hinata being his wife. Though he had no idea at the moment, but despite his face resembling a tomato at the moment, he nodded to Fenrix to go on with his example. If she is your wife, then not only will she gain the title of it, but her Byakugan can actually improve a great deal and be much stronger due to your performance of your duties as her husband, but the child you both will have not just a much stronger Byakugan, but your basic ascendant powers and even the use of some higher aspects of your abilities. Are you getting me so far? Yeah, I am, but this is kind of sudden. I understand that. Another reason why you can have more than one wife is not just for the mentioned purposes, but it will also cement alliances with other families, as the children born from you and your wives from their families will be part of their own as well. This is where some delicacy is important, so try to be patient as some clans might become pushy. As your Kekai Genkai is quite powerful, there will be those who will try to do their best to have their daughters be married into your clan. Knowing how to handle these situations with tact and diplomacy will not be easy, but it can be done. Okay, but there is something that I can't help but think about. That being my age. I'm only 13 for crying out loud. I can't get married now. True, but just because you are married by law, it does not mean you have to procreate instantly with your wife or wives in this case. Get to know them more, learn from them, and be able to see them for who they are as people. That way you are actually building up a good relationship with the people who are going to be part of your clan. Okay, but I am still 13, how can I be sure that I can even have kids? You can, your body will hit a certain point in which it will have an accelerated growth spurt, so that means that while you are still 13, the growth spurt you will have soon will give you the body of an 18 or 19-year-old person, so you would be legally be able to have children, and your Dragon King blood has given you quite the advantage in terms of procreation than that of normal men. Huh? Have you taken sexual education classes in the academy? Not really, I was always doing pranks and getting reprimanded to learn anything solid. I just know that men and women can have kids. Never mind, we'll reserve that set of lessons on male and female intimacy for another time. Now as to what I said about you having an advantage over most men in the regards of procreation in several ways. The first is that your sperm is capable of allowing women to be 100% capable of having children, meaning that even one drop is enough to guarantee that your wife or any of them your wives will have a child. No way. That is true, Naruto, I would not lie about that part. The second is that your wife's pregnancy cycle is a lot different than that of normal women. A human child is born as at least 9 months, but your child will be born in about half the time without any complications. So in simple terms, you can not only guarantee a full success rate when your wife or wives become pregnant, but your child can be born in the time frame of 4 months and 17.5 days. So in simple terms, your clan could produce quite the number of children in a short amount of time. The third is that since you have the stamina to last in a much longer time frame than most people, you can certainly give your wife or wives a night they will never forget. Naruto's nose bled out a fountain of blood at the news, while Fenrix was enjoying this at the moment. He couldn't blame Naruto for the reaction he had at the time, since such news was something one did not receive as everyday news. As soon as this news hit the streets of Konoha, he knew that things were going to get very hectic, and if it came out to the rest of the world at large, he knew that things were going to get very interesting. He then moved over to Naruto and nudged him with a smile on his face. Hey, you're not married yet, so you can worry about that later, come on. We've got training to do. Naruto recovered and was able to get his act together and return to training as they went through the prescribed exercises, and as time passed, Naruto was getting into the swing of things. Hours later, Naruto was once more tired and was eager to have some ramen, and they headed back up, and as they headed for Ichiraku ramen stand, Naruto was eager to finally put his training to the forefront of the month ahead. The next day, Naruto decided to visit the hospital to see how things were for Sasuke at the moment. It was then that he ran into Kakashi, who apparently had visited Sasuke before. Jonin smiled at his student and spoke to him. Hey there Naruto, you've been busy. You bet Kakashi-sensei, why are you here? I came here to check on Sasuke actually, he's still out of it, but the doctor said he's recovered well enough on his own at the moment. That sounds alright, say, can you teach me something new, please? Kakashi shook his head and replied. I don't think I can teach you at the moment, I know about your Kekai Genkai since the Hokage told me, so you need to train in that area first, and when you are ready, I can teach you a lesson that you can use to your advantage. I might train Sasuke harder, but there are reasons for that, and you both have good potential. Oh alright, but promise me that you are going to teach me someday. Count on it. By the way, you want to pay a visit to Lee. I hear it's in one of the rooms. Naruto's face became sad at the thought of Rock Lee being the way he was at the moment and what Kakashi said about the dangers of Kenjutsu are forbidden. He hoped that the tough and strong genin would recover soon and continue to be a ninja. How is he? He'll live, but I don't know about his chances of being a ninja. Guy taught him well, there is no doubt in my mind about that, but for his chances, I just don't know. But can't the medic nin do something? Kakashi shook his head and replied. They're skilled, but nowhere near that skilled. The only medic nin I know who can do the surgery needed to heal Lee would have to be Tsunade. Tsunade? Who's that? One of the Sannin are the legendary 3 ninja sages, she was the finest medic nin in the village of Konoha and was the granddaughter of the Shodai Hokage, and she had superhuman strength, she was strong enough to collapse a wall with one hit. Wow, so where is she? She isn't here, and no Naruto, she's not a missing nin like Zabuza, her case is different. How's it different? I'm afraid I don't know all the details, the only one who would know would be her teammates. Naruto nodded and then bid farewell to Kakashi, and this allowed the Jonin to relax. Had he told Naruto the other reason for visiting Sasuke and training, he had no doubt the genin and new clan leader would have been royally angry. He had recently managed to stop Kabuto from killing Sasuke. The Leaf Ninja then revealed that he was a spy and a servant of Orochimaru as well, and was a highly skilled one to have killed all of the Anbu guards that Kakashi had requested to guard Sasuke. He noted that very well, and despite this, he did his best to convince Kabuto to leave. Kabuto was able to escape, using disguises and elaborate as well. Fooling Kakashi with one of the dead Anbu used as a puppet with his clothes and face on, while he had taken the disguise of the same slain Anbu and escaped. Kakashi could tell that despite Kabuto's age and youth, he was not someone to underestimate, so he himself would have to shape up and be stronger than before. And if Orochimaru had such talent at his side, things were not going to be easy. He however had no doubt that the very second Orochimaru and Kabuto find out about Naruto's hidden powers and Kekai Genkai, things for Naruto were going to get very interesting. For now however, he had work to do with Sasuke as he, Jiraiya and the Hokage knew that they had to keep Sasuke Sharingan from Orochimaru. As Naruto walked through the floors, he ran into none other than Shikamaru, who was carrying a fruit basket. Hey Shikamaru. Oh Naruto, what brings you out here? I was planning to visit Sasuke to see how the guy was doing and also to see Lee, what are you doing here? Sending this fruit to Chaoji, he had one streak rib too many. If you catch my drift, it got so bad the nurse forbade him to eat anything solid for the next few days. And you know how Chaoji will react to that. Yeah, that is bad news for Chaoji. Anyway, it'll be a drag to be carrying this all day, here, grab a bite. Naruto took an apple and quickly munched it as the two of them began to make their way to Lee's room after getting some directions. However, it was then that both ninja felt something bad in the air. Shikamaru and Naruto looked at one another and quickly moved to see what was going on, and as soon as they reached Lee's room, they saw just what was going on. As well as who was in the room with the still sleeping genin. Gaara, who was about to kill Lee with the desert coffin. Shikamaru moved quickly and bound the sand genin with his shadow manipulation Kekai Genkai, and Naruto moved and quickly hit Gaara right on the face. Ow. Hey Naruto. Don't hit him while I got him bound with my shadow, you just hit me. Sorry about that. Man, Naruto's got a hell of a right hook, if he had not pulled back, he would have broken not just this Gaara guy's jaw, but mine too. The sand genin got up and looked at the two and focused on them as they saw that the genin was wearing his sand armor, but it was badly damaged at the moment. What the heck are you doing here in Lee's room, Gaara? Well met again, Naruto Uzumaki. I didn't expect you here. I am a bit disappointed I don't get to fight you in the finals. Now isn't the time for that and you know it. Why are you here? Hi there Chaoji. How are you doing? Ino asked as Chaoji smiled and saw both her and the fruit basket she had for him in her hands. Wow. A pretty girl with food. What a lucky break. Back in Lee's room. What are you doing here, Gaara? I won't ask again. Naruto wanted answers and wanted them now. He knew that he couldn't attack Gaara with any of his abilities due to the fact he'd injure Shikamaru as well, along with harming Lee, but he couldn't help but ask just what the heck was Gaara doing here in this room of all things. I was going to kill him. That naturally didn't sit well with the two Konoha genin who glared at Gaara, that is Naruto glared while Shikamaru kept his cool, but even so, he was not liking the situation for the moment. What? The simple and calm look of Gaara, which was mixed with a bloodthirstiness, was making Shikamaru nervous as he shook his head. This guy is one cold customer. He's not showing any reaction, even if I have him tied down by my shadow. I have no doubt if he tries to attack us. I can't stop him too well. The only chance to defuse this is to bluff him. But why the hell would he want to kill Lee? You already beat him once in the preliminaries. Heck, you practically broke his leg and arm and he can't fight anymore, let alone defend himself. Yet you want to kill him. Isn't what you did to him back there enough for you? Is this some personal grudge you have on Lee? I have nothing personal against him. There's no ulterior motive or complicated planning involved with me being here. I just want to kill him, nothing more. Naruto didn't like that in the least. You're insane, Gaara. I don't know why the heck you're like this. But right now I don't care. You really lost it. Yeah. Naruto's right. You honestly think we'll stand by and let you murder one of our fellow genin in his sleep and be unable to fight back? You're one sick, selfish and twisted psychotic Gaara of the sand. If you both don't stay out of my way, then I'll kill the both of you as well. Naruto however glared and his tattoos began to show themselves and traces of chakra began to seep out and he replied. I'd like to see you try it, Gaara. Whoa Naruto. Don't blow a gasket here. Look, we know you are tough and we were there when you crippled Lee with your sand, but we haven't unleashed our full abilities just yet, so we have the advantage. Really now? Yeah, what you've seen of my family's ability with shadows manipulation is just the icing on the cake. Besides, there's two of us here, so take my advice and leave here peacefully. Gaara however was not intimidated as he spoke back to Shikamaru. I'll say it again loud and clear, if you two get in my way. I'll kill you both right here and now. I don't need to wait until the tournament to kill you both. Damn. He's like ice. This is not going well. I'd like to see you try, Gaara. Damn it Naruto. Keep that temper and ice for a single minute. This guy fights like a demon for Kami's sake. Naruto glared and replied. He can act and fight like a demon all he wants. But I happen to have the real deal right inside of me. I happen to have a demon in me as well, a real one. Pure power as well, and you do not want to wake it up. What the hell are you yapping about now? Let me try to defuse this mess. What the whole point of getting him mad at us anyway? Gaara looked on as Naruto glared back. And he merely closed his eyes and spoke. A demon inside you, huh? Then my demon is as real as your own is. What the heck? My birth and my upbringing back in my village of sand was not something one would call either happy or normal. To make sure I would be born as the ultimate sand shinobi to ever be born from the land of wind. My father, the fourth Kazekage, used his ninjutsu on me, infusing my still unborn form with the power of a sand demon spirit. In doing so life was lost with my birth. My mother's life. I was literally born as a monster in human form. Naruto looked on with shock at that as he realized that there was something in Gaara's tone that told him that this was the truth. And it resonated with him. Because it was the same as his own life. Shikamaru was also shocked and Gaara carried on. The name of that demon that melded with me was Shukaku, the living reincarnation of a former sand priest who died and became evil and was sealed in an old tea kettle. Shikamaru recovered and spoke. A demon based. But to use it on a baby. Before it was ever born. That is one creepy thought. Your father must love you well enough to give you that power. Can it be true? Can he really have a demon inside him? Like I do? Gaara never showed emotion, but Naruto could tell that there was one emotion in Gaara. Hatred. Love? You speak of love. Don't think I can be measured in your standards. It's not love I feel for my family. Neither is it respect or any of those feelings you people have. The only emotional ties I have for them is hate. I hate my family, I hate them all to my very core. The only thing I ever wanted was to wrap either my hands or the sand in my gourd around their necks and kill them slowly. Given life by the death of my mother, I was nurtured to be the salvation of the sand village. My father taught me all the secrets of the ninja at a young age, and I was treated well enough. Pampered and protected and left to my own devices, and for a time. I thought it was love. But that was only the beginning of everything. What the heck are you talking about? What kind of tricks are you trying to pull this time, Gaara? 6 years passed when I was 6 years old. My father tried to have me destroyed far more than I care to remember. The way Gaara smiled and looked quite insane made Shikamaru and Naruto look in shock, both however were not backing away. You just said your father pampered and protected you. Was that some sort of lie? It was no lie. Those who get to be strong get to be feared, and I was feared by everyone in the village. The same that was used to infuse Shukaku in me had imbalanced my mind in some way. Even the most foolish of my village realized that I was emotionally unstable. My father, the Kazekage, created me as his ultimate weapon in battle. But even he saw that I was too dangerous, and I became a threat to the very village I was meant to protect and save from disarray. When I was 6 I became a figure of terror to everyone and in their eyes. I was nothing more than a relic of the past they wanted gone. I was a living monument to their sins that they wanted destroyed. And that meant I had failed the purpose for which I was given life utterly. So I asked myself. What was left for me to exist in this wretched world? What was the point of living now? For living and having no goal is the same as being a dead corpse. But then I realized that everything has a purpose and a goal to stay alive in this world. What is this lunatic freak talking about? Naruto remained silent and thought to himself. I know what he means, I know what he feels. Because I was like him too, him and I are no different from one another. We are both demon containers. Then I found the answer. My reason to stay alive was in the killing of all those who are my targets. Since it was my mother's death that gave me life. Then it is in the death of ours that gave me purpose. I lived in fear of those sent to kill me. But now I do not fear death, and I have killed many would-be assassins sent by my father in the years. I learned that I truly lived when I fought and lived only for myself, and I loved myself. I have no need for others, and also as long as there are those alive for me to kill, then I will find some peace and happiness in this overcrowded, wide and wretched world. I will live here for all eternity. This guy has lost his mind. He's not human at all. But a freakish monster. I was alone like him. I had no idea why I was alive. Until Iruka-sensei came and then saw me for me, not for the Kyuubi. He gave me a reason for living. Then I met the old man, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura-chan. And even Sasuke. But Gaara. He had no one, and those who could have helped him turned on him. He had to find his reason to stay living on his own. But he came up with this. To kill in order to live. Could I have become like him if it hadn't been for Iruka-sensei being there? Could I have been like Gaara too? We're so different. But we're close to being the same. We're literally brothers in a sense. Naruto. Damn it all. Not now. This is a drag. The reason for that was the sand suddenly came to life, and despite Gaara being pinned down by Shikamaru's, the sand came right at them as Naruto was frozen stiff by what he heard and how much the same he and Gaara were. Gaara was about to attack, but it was then that Guy arrived on the scene, and so did Fenrix, and Fenrix had a blade of pure fire aimed at Gaara's throat, and with one pull, the dragon ascendant could have easily sliced Gaara's head off. I suggest you lay off with your antics, Gaara of the Sand. Harm anyone here, including my charge, I will slice your head clean off. Gaara looked at Fenrix, but even though he was emotionless, he mentally took a step back as he saw the dragon-like eyes that stared back at him. Gaara left as pain hit him as Guy told them to wait for the finals, and he turned to speak to them. All the same, I am going to kill you, I will kill you all. As Naruto left with Fenrix and headed back to the fortress home of his, the senior dragon ascendant spoke to his student. I heard everything, but before you get any ideas, I think that you already have people who care for you. Sakura, Iruka, and Kakashi, Master Valen, the Hokage, and maybe even Sasuke. They are the people who gave you the chance to walk away from your personal hell. Gaara didn't have that, and look at him, those people are important to you, Naruto, am I right? Yes, they are. So you must fight for them, for their sake, not for yourself. Remember the things you've learned, and remember what Haku said to you. Naruto remembered quickly what Haku said about how people gain true strength by fighting for others, and that steeled him to train even harder. If ever he would face Gaara, he would not hesitate to fight him with all he got at this moment in time. Elsewhere. Where have you been, Gaara? We've been looking for you. Ankiru asked his youngest brother when he showed up, just as they were getting a very bad feeling about what was going to happen if he was out of sight. But he was back and seemed to be no worse for wear. None of your business. Ankiru sighed and kept his cool, knowing that no matter how angry he would get, he was no match for Gaara. Tamari sighed as she looked at both her brothers and wondered how it had come to this. They were here not to truly win the Chunin exams, but to help the Sound defeat and crush Konoha. The village that they were allied with, and so many died for this peace. The situation was so wrong to her. But there were reasons as well. The feudal lord of Wind Country ordered military cutbacks, forcing her village to downsize their forces and lose a lot of missions that could truly help them in many ways, and matters that should be in the hands of her village were handed to the people in Konoha, and that made them weaker in power and influence. That was the reason why Gaara was born as well. They had to go for quality shinobi instead of quantity. But now they were going back into war. Under the order of her father. And the outcome. Tamari sighed as she looked out the window. Things were going to be very bad news now. Days later. The village of Konoha was currently getting ready for the coming second half of the Chunin exams. And it seemed that things were well on their way to getting very loud and entertaining at the moment. However, there were some new things that were being discussed in hushed tones by the villagers, namely concerning a certain blonde genin who had just discovered his own Kekkei Genkai. Many of the villagers were making rude comments and saying that stuff was just garbage, and there was no way a guy like Naruto would have a Kekkei Genkai. The villagers however were getting rather curious on how the soon-to-come matches would turn out. Many talked about the coming match between Sasuke Uchiha and Gaara of the Sand. To them, that was the kind of fight they were looking forward to. Not the fight of the blonde genin, and many of those who were against Naruto thought that he would be beaten down. They had no idea how wrong they were. Naruto was busy training long and hard deep within his underground fortress-like residence, as he was being taught by not just Fenrix, but by Jiraiya as well. The meeting between the Sannin and the blonde ninja did not go well at first, but they were getting along well enough as Jiraiya and Fenrix had a respect for one another. And much to Naruto's shock and surprise, his mentor Fenrix, like Kakashi, was a fan of the Icha novels. All throughout his training, he was unaware that while his blood had finally adapted to the powers, his body had not. Fenrix knew this and trained Naruto hard, as he knew that Naruto's growth spurt was already taking effect as he was growing taller and stronger than before, as his body was being magically adjusted to suit his powers. The changes included a loss of all baby fat and replaced with lean but rock-hard muscle, increase in height, and also his face began to change into that of a more mature and handsome person. Jiraiya noted that, and Naruto could have sworn that the pervy sage said something that sounded like he was going to be as handsome as his old man. He however was so focused on his training that he did not notice, and he was enjoying the training as he slowly but surely began to adapt to using not just wind, but fire, water, lightning, and earth. He knew that he was to give his all at the moment, and he couldn't wait to see what other lessons Jiraiya might give him. The pervy sage tested Naruto's use of the Kage Bushin and also his Genjutsu, Ninjutsu, and Taijutsu skills, and despite his thoughts on the Sannin being a perverted old man, he was happy with the training. Jiraiya himself was interested in giving Naruto the contract of frog summoning, but waited for a better time to train him, as his new Kekai Genkai had to develop first. At the end of the month, he would teach Naruto just how to summon toads, and he was looking forward to the results of this meeting between Gamabunta and Naruto. It was during his training that Naruto wished he could use the ultimate move of elemental manipulation. However, during an exercise with his Kage Bushin, the blonde had an idea on a new jutsu that he could incorporate into battle. The day of the semi-finals of the Chunin exams. As the crowds gathered and were now filling the area where the coming Chunin exams were going to start, Naruto left the compound of his home and was wearing a cloak with his new clan symbol, the 5 elements in dragon form surrounding the symbol of Konoha. He decided to pay a visit to the old training ground, ignoring some of the comments heading at his direction, namely sent by young women. As he arrived there, he was surprised to see none other than Hinata herself. He was not expecting her here, but he decided to call her attention. Hinata. Hinata turned, and she blushed bright red as she found herself looking at a very handsome young man with deep blue eyes and deep blonde hair that resembled the color of gold, wheat and the sun itself. She felt her heart race and wondered just who was before her. W, who are you? H, how do you know my name? It's me, Naruto. Naruto? Is that you? Yep. BB, but it can't be. I mean. Why? Do I look ugly or something? No. But you look so handsome, I thought you. Hinata blushed to the point that her face was bright red as she realized just what she had just said, but she could not help herself as Naruto looked so handsome that she felt like he was a god in human form at this moment in time. Hey, thanks, I don't look at a mirror all that much, but if you say so, then it's true. So, how are you feeling? Hinata managed to look at Naruto and replied. I'm feeling a lot better, and then Naruto-kun, the doctor said I should be careful, but it'll be fine. I hope to see you in action soon. Count on it, I am going to make Niji regret ever making all those remarks towards you. Thank you, I want to say, thank you. For what, Hinata? For what you said before in the tower. I knew I would not be able to beat Niji-san. I was always shy and meek, I never had confidence before, even if I trained hard, I was always afraid of losing, of giving my all, but you. When I looked at you and heard what you said to me to stand up for myself, I felt so alive and so strong to know that you were right beside me. Hinata. I felt like I could fight to the limit and I was worth something. I might have lost, but I felt that I have changed for the better, thanks to you. So I have no doubt you can win, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled and spoke to Hinata. Thanks, you know something, Hinata, I have to tell you what I think of you. Hinata gasped as she felt her body tense up and her heart beat even faster at the moment as she waited in anticipation. What is, Naruto-kun? What is it you want to say? Do you like me? Please. I have to know. You know, back then I always thought of you as. What? Please. Tell me what you think of, Naruto-kun. I must not faint. I have to know. Hinata felt her heart race at the expectation of what she had long waited for Naruto to say to her. She wanted to know. But you were a weird, timid and odd girl. Hinata felt downcast and wondered if her shyness had finally caught up with her, and she wondered if this was what Naruto truly thought of her, and she felt even sadder. However, her thoughts of sadness disappeared as Naruto spoke. But now I see you as a kind, strong-hearted, brave, and talented person. And I happen to like that a lot. I like people who are like that, and seeing you fight was impressive. No matter what anyone says, you will grow up to be a great ninja someday, don't lose faith and keep it up, Hinata. Hinata blushed bright red at the praise, and her sadness vanished as she could see that Naruto meant every word to her. DT, thank you, and Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled. No problem, see you at the finals, Hinata. As Naruto left, Hinata was still blushing as she twiddled her fingers and felt her heart race and her feelings swelled. He said it. Naruto-kun likes me. As he made his way to the building, he was able to enter despite some problems at the entrance due to the Chunin there who guarded the doors. As soon as he proved that he was Naruto, he made his way in and was greeted by Fenrix and Jiraiya, who were eager to see this fight and show his newly created special ability. As soon as he entered the ring, he removed his cloak and was dressed in black pants with orange stripes and wore a simple black and orange striped shirt and vest with the same clan symbol at the back. He ignored the stares, including the one from Temari, and focused on the soon-to-come fight. In the ring. As the two faced once another. Naruto was more than eager for the soon-to-come fight. He was going to make sure that by the end of this round, he was going to beat the holy hell out of Neji and give him the beating he deserves for looking down on people's dreams and aspirations to be better and stronger, as well as proving to others that they were going to able to make themselves into stronger and better people. The crowds were expecting this fight to be easy for Neji, and then they could actually see Gaara and Sasuke face off once Naruto was defeated. Some admired the fact that he got this far, but they felt that he was going to be easily defeated by Neji. While many of the women were surprised at how handsome Naruto was at the moment, even Sakura and Ino were impressed. Naruto was focused in the battle and was now ready to give Neji the sound beating he deserved for his words, but for the moment, he wanted to see just what Neji was capable of unleashing with the Byakugan and the gentle fist at the moment, so for now, he was going to let the people think that this fight was going to be simple. He however was not going to let Neji think he was going to have this fight in the bag just yet. Neji however was not that confident, despite his calm stance at the moment, he was cautious in attacking Naruto directly, as Naruto's abilities were making him a deadly foe at the moment. Begin. The moment the Jonin Proctor Genma said that, Naruto quickly attacked with several kunai, one Neji caught and used that to block the incoming attacks, but Naruto was quick to attack and unleashed several fast punches, and while Neji evaded them and used his Byakugan to attack Naruto, however Naruto was quick on the uptake and quickly moved out of the way and launched a powerful spinning kick at the side, and Neji managed to block the attack. But Naruto was not going to let him get away so easily just yet, as he quickly recovered and leaped over Neji, and as he landed he turned and launched out a sweat kick that Neji leaped over. Naruto however followed up with a reverse spinning back kick that hit Neji in the stomach. Making the Hyuga clan member realize that while Naruto was not using his full power, even so he was not someone he could afford to take lightly. The two engaged in several hand-to-hand combat attacks, and while Neji tried to use his gentle fist, Naruto was not going to make it the least bit easy for Neji to score a direct hit at the moment. The fight proved to be a winning one, and the crowds watched as Neji and Naruto were fighting their best in the moment before them. For every kick Naruto unleashed as well as every punch, Neji was able to counter, but even then, the speed and power of Naruto's attacks were very good, as Neji had to strain his Byakugan to the limits to even things up at the moment. His attacks were getting better, but Naruto countered with quick and effective movements, using his hands and arms to block Neji's attack, and also his legs to block in effect Neji's kicks. Naruto unleashed several kunai and shuriken that Neji easily evaded, and the two attacked once more, and Neji threw several kicks at Naruto, but Naruto leaped away and did a spinning backhand upside down that Neji managed to block, and he attacked with a back kick that Naruto blocked in retaliation, and when he landed, the blonde genin launched a powerful series of kicks at Neji, who blocked as best he could. Not bad. Even when not using his powers, he is more than capable of fighting. This fight is going to be a lot longer than I thought, but since he is not using that power, I can beat him with those. You might have trained long and hard for Naruto, and I respect that, but fate cannot be changed. I will win this fight because destiny is on my side. As the two separated, Neji attacked with his gentle fist and managed to hit Naruto, but Naruto countered the attack by moving backward and grabbing Neji's hand and pulling backward and landing a powerful elbow into Neji's body, which Neji blocked with his other hand. Naruto countered with a powerful rising knee attack which hit Neji in the stomach. Neji however, countered with several palm strikes that forced Naruto back. And this was when he made his move. The Kesho Kaiten. Neji rotated his body and unleashed a powerful sphere that knocked Naruto back, and as soon as Naruto recovered, Neji was not going to finish as he attacked with yet another Hyuga clan special attack. Hiashi was impressed and saw how Neji was able to use such techniques that were never taught to him due to being a branch family member. His daughter Hanabi thought the very same thing as her cousin was proving to be a lot better than she thought, but she too was impressed by Naruto's moves, but the second move seemed to guarantee Niji's victory. Haki Rakujian Show. Naruto got hit so many times that it seemed that he was going to be knocked out, and Naruto moved down to his knees, and Niji couldn't help but be impressed at how Naruto fought. He had managed to pull out several hits and the two Hyuga clan moves, and now it seemed that he would win in the end. You fought Naruto-san well, but you lost. What makes you so sure? Accept it, I don't know why you didn't use that ability you showed before in the preliminaries, but now without your chakra, you can't use it at all. Fate is unchanging and losers cannot be able to change, that is the will of fate. Screw that fate and destiny crap. What makes you think that is all true anyway? You really want to know? Very well, take me for example. What are you talking about this time? Niji then removes the Konoha forehead protector, and there on his forehead was a seal in the shape of an X. Naruto looked at it as Niji spoke. I had this disgusting mark on me when I was merely 4 years old, and so did my father Hisashi since his own birth. My father was born after Hinata's own father Hisashi, and his clan laws dictated. He was relegated to being a member of the branch family. The Hyuga clan are of 2 parts. And the branch family's fate and destiny are to be the ones who would protect the main branch. I was unaware of it at first. Until I saw how they treated my father and me. How we were always relegated to other tasks despite our own talents. This cursed seal was always used for those of the branch family, who were always destined to be nothing more than shields for the main family. This seal was given to me by them on the day when Konoha and the country of Lightning signed a valuable peace treaty. After a war between them and an alliance, a celebration was held that day. The head ninja of the hidden village of the Cloud was Lightning Country's representative. The Hyuga were the only clan not present since it was Hinata's 3rd birthday. And the same day I was branded with this seal. Both my father and Hisashi were twins, and my father hated the main family and never respected them. On that day my uncle was training Hinata and he was able to beat her. My father prepared to fight with Hinata to see how much she had grown. But Hayashi activated the seal on my father and my father suffered from it. The seal prevents members of the branch family from attacking the main by limiting their Byakugan and injuring their minds and bodies. Hisashi then told him to never defy his fate as a branch family member. That seal protected the Byakugan bloodline through death. For the seal only disappeared in death. One night, Hinata was kidnapped and Hisashi was able to save her and kill the man responsible. And that man was the head ninja of Hidden Cloud. The Lightning Country then stated that Konoha violated the treaty and they demanded the lead of the Hyuga clan in exchange for the death of their head ninja. In time the relationship broke down and Konoha gave in to the demand of Lighting. But they didn't give it to Hisashi. They gave my father Hisashi instead. They gave them to my father because he was the second born and was fated to die in Hiyashi's place. Niji then placed back on the forehead protector and then glared at Naruto who glared right back at him. The day my father died was the day I learned the truth of life Naruto and I know it to be true. The only truth is. There are those few who are predetermined to be great. I know you're dreaming of being Hokage. But you are not going to make it. Only those who are predestined can be Hokage. There's only true fate that binds all of us. And that's death. No one can escape that. And all because my father died as a member of the branch family of the Hyuga for the sake of the head family as it was his destiny and fate as a branch family member. And now. Your fate has been decided since you became my foe in this match. Hayashi heard everything. And he knew just what it was that Niji spoke of. In his heart Niji still cursed and hated the main family. And he knew why Niji hated them. After all, they did agree to having Hisashi killed in his place. But there was far more to that than even Niji realized. He wanted to tell him the truth. But he doubted Niji would ever listen to him. He had every reason to not listen after all. Naruto however was not convinced and replied. You can tell me that, but nothing will change the fact that I will not lose to you and there is no such thing as a fate you cannot escape. At least I have the courage to fight and defy fate. What about you Niji, still too much of a coward to face fate? At least Hinata and Lee had the courage to face and fight for what they dream for, unlike you who hides behind this crappy thought of fate being inescapable. Niji was getting very angry and made that very well known. You know nothing. No matter how hard you train and no matter how hard you dream for it, you can never gain it. Because all people are born with an inescapable fate and destiny. Only those chosen by fate and destiny can ever be Hokage. And you know nothing about how it feels to carry a mark like this one on me for the rest of your life. I am cursed for all eternity and nothing can change that. Naruto however got up and to Niji's shock summoned his chakra once more. Spare me your idle prattle and garbage Niji. Now that we're done playing around, we can get serious. How? You think I let you get those hits for the fun of it, Niji? I just wanted to see just what you were capable of doing with both the Byakugan and the Gentle Fist for real, and not that I know just what you are able to do, now is the right time to get serious. Naruto got into a combat stance and then unleashed his special ability. Dragon King Blood. Release. Wind. Neji watched it, the tattoos were finally showing themselves, and the sight of Naruto being surrounded by wind made him move back, and this got the crowd right by their pants. They had thought that Naruto was done for despite the amazing fight and spirit he displayed before, but now it seemed that the blonde ninja was about to show what he was about to do. And Naruto did not disappoint as he attacked with several powerful tunnels of wind and sent those slamming hard into Neji's defense and sent the boy away. Naruto did the same, and Neji evaded the attack and charged at Naruto, intent on finishing the fight quickly, but if he thought he would be able to attack Naruto up close and attack with the Haki Rakugan show once more. He was wrong as Naruto beat him to second. Naruto attacked at the same time but with an even greater speed, using the wind to propel him even faster to close in to attack Neji, and he struck with a simple kick. Neji blocked but paid dearly for it as the wind appeared on Naruto's leg and sent him back with several tears on the clothes and some cuts on his skin, not enough to draw blood, but to hurt well enough. Naruto was far from done as he attacked with several blasts of wind and then moved in and launched a punch, and as Neji evaded and prepared to strike, Naruto quickly flipped over Neji and landed his own palm strikes into Neji's back and sent him to the ground. Neji turned and coughed a bit as he felt pain on his body at the moment and spoke to Naruto. "You were baiting me the whole time." Naruto nodded and then spoke with confidence. "Oh yes, I don't have to attack at long range all the time, as you have found out, my abilities also work well in close combat. Besides Neji, what makes you think wind is the only element I can throw at you?" "What? Lightning?" Neji could only watch as the tattoos on Naruto's body transformed and resembled spheres of lighting and lightning bolts, and Naruto's body was suddenly releasing lightning bolts all over himself. Naruto then raised his arm, and then to the shock of the people above, black lightning clouds appeared in the sky, and then a massive current of pure raw elemental lightning in lightning bolt form lanced down with a massive boom and landed on Naruto, without even harming him, and then with a pointing of two fingers, Naruto unleashed the bolt of lightning right at Neji. Neji managed to roll away, and he couldn't help but feel his nerves tingle and his skin seemed to be alive, as even though he had evaded the strike, the very air was filled with lightning, even as the clouds above vanished as quickly as they came. Naruto decided to taunt Neji the same way he taunted Hinata to give him a taste of his own medicine. "You want to try that gentle fist of yours on me again, Neji? Let me show you just how bad an idea that is." Naruto did so because he was covered in an aura of pure lightning like a suit of elemental armor, and he spoke once more. "If even one finger of yours touches me, I can hit you with enough lightning to either stun you or cook you alive. How do you plan on beating me?" "How can you do that?" "This is my Kekai Genkai Neji, I can manipulate all 5 elements with equal skill, and apart from increased physical abilities, I have the ability to be nearly impossible to harm with blades as you already know, but to drive this home. I am also given a higher resilience to injury and to paralysis and even illusion techniques, it means I am immune to genjutsu, and even to a degree, your vaunted gentle fist, and you know why, despite how effective it is, you're going to need greater physical strength to use it on me, and you don't have it. And that makes your chosen fighting style useless to me. But mine is more than a match for yours." Neji was stunned, and so was everyone else in the ring. Naruto, however, was not going to give up yet as he attacked and dropped his lightning aura and attacked with his taijutsu and revealed another frightening aspect of his powers to Neji as his punch landed on Neji. As Neji was still unable to fight back, he screamed in shock as he was hit by bolts of lightning that quickly stunned him and he was able to move back. "This is not good. He's able to stun me with just a single punch and I can't attack him, I have to do something fast." Neji took out a kunai to give him some defense, but Naruto was quick to disable that idea as he focused his lightning into his right hand, and to Neji's surprise and that of everyone else, the lightning solidified into a sword of pure lightning, and with one strike, Naruto cut the kunai quite easily, however the technique seemed to be imperfect as the lightning quickly dispersed as Naruto landed on the ground from his leap. The Hyuga member managed to keep his distance, but was treated to yet another surprise as Naruto merely shouted another command. "Water." The tattoos on Naruto's body shifted once more at the command and resembled streams, rivers, and waves of blue color, and Naruto was now using water as spheres of liquid were there on his hands, and he then unleashed from the air itself a massive wave of pure water that slammed hard into Neji, drenching him and sending him flying. Neji barely got to his feet as Naruto attacked, and while Neji tried to use a sweep kick to knock Naruto down, the blonde ninja kicked upward, and Neji watched as a whip of pure hard water smacked him right in the face and sent him flying to the other side. He got up and looked to see Naruto smiling the whole time. Naruto was enjoying this fight greatly and planned to show off even more of his abilities in combat. He finally decided to unleash yet another element. Earth. Neji looked as Naruto's tattoos morphed once more to take the form of fissures, hills, mountains, and the brown-green color of earth, and then he moved away as Naruto unleashed several walls of pure earth from the ground with a mere gesture from his hands, and he sent the walls at Neji. Neji managed to evade the attacks, but he was not given a respite as Naruto attacked with and unleashed a powerful trio of waves made of earth to imbalance Neji, and he landed several kicks to Neji and knocked him back. Fire. Naruto's tattoos now resembled flame and was of a deeper red color, and he unleashed spinning whips of flame at Neji, and Neji got his leg burned a bit and he gritted at the pain and managed to roll away as Naruto unleashed several waves of fire by doing the same move as he had done with lightning and fired a trio of tongues of flame at Neji. Neji then realized that Naruto could only use one element at a time and he calmed himself and tried to find a way to beat Naruto hard. But he was also cautious, he knew that he would have to find some way of hitting Naruto's body hard enough to use the signature Haki Rakugan show once more. In the crowd. Damn. I hate to say it, but that was way cool. Biba said and Akamaru barked in agreement while Hinata was utterly impressed by how things were turning out. Naruto-kun, you are so amazing. That was, man, I never knew Naruto would get this good in a month. Sakura had to agree with Ino as the two looked on as Naruto was thrashing Neji around like a dog would maul a chew toy. Neji is getting really hurt, man, this Naruto is really pouring it on. Tenten hated to admit this. But it seemed that Neji had picked a foe that his Byakugan and Gentle Fist was useless against. Seeing Naruto manipulate Wind got her worried at first, but she knew Neji's special move could counter that, but when Naruto unleashed his power over lightning and now water, her thoughts began to change. Ayashi could only look on in growing amazement as Naruto was busy pounding the very life out of Neji. Seeing Naruto stand up to the Hakesho Katen and the Haki Rakugan show without ill effect was surprising, but this was something else entirely. The Chunin were speaking rapidly to one another and the Jonin were also talking with one another as they saw the power Naruto was displaying at the moment. The villagers were also chatting, but many were hooked at this fight at the moment. The masked Anbu couldn't help but look at the sight before him. How the heck did he do that? Only the Nidaime was capable of using water jutsu without a water source. One of the Anbu said as he and his companions looked on. The captain however replied. That was no water jutsu, he is using water differently, he did not use any hand seals, and I think, no matter how crazy this sounds, he was able to pull water from the air itself. In the Hokage's viewing area. Sarutobi couldn't help but smile at the sight. Naruto had gone far, even though he had only a month's worth of training. Who is this young man? Sarutobi turned to the Kazuki and replied. Naruto Uzumaki, who has an amazing Kekai Genkai and despite his tender age, is head of his own clan here in Konoha. You saw his new clan symbol of 5 dragons surrounding the Konoha symbol. He is relatively new in his powers, but he is growing. I have a feeling that he might even surpass all the noble families and their own Kekai Genkai. I see. Naruto-kun, where did you get this power? You did not have this when you were in the forest, and it is certainly not the Kyuubi's power, you are interesting. Naruto smiled as he finally revealed his special ace in the hole. He had been training in secret with this ever since he had discovered that the cage bushin he would normally make could also carry his powers, and that meant that they could use his ability to change the elements that they were able to wield. He had thought it over and wondered if it could work. He had presented the idea to Fenrix, and the senior dragon ascendant had to admit the move was very ingenious. And even the pervy sage Jiraiya was impressed by the move and said that what he had planned was taking the use of cage bushin to a whole new level. It had been a very hard run to master the style and how to properly use attacks that could work well in conjunction with what he had in mind. It had taken him weeks to master some basic maneuvers. Here's my special trick. And this is what I have been training in when I use my Kekai Genkai. I hope you're ready for this. Page Bushin no Jutsu. Naruto created several clones, and there were now since there were 5 opponents before Neji in the ring. Neji wanted to know just what Naruto was up to at the moment, and he decided to speak. Page Bushin, despite that being a Jonin technique, that jutsu is no Kekai Genkai. Naruto was smirking however. He had been training with this for some time now, and now was the time for him to keep his promise. No, not on its own, but the cage bushin are my aids. I have yet to fully master the ability to manipulate the elements to the point I can use all 5 together, but with the cage bushin, I came up with the next best thing. Dragon King Blood. Release. Fire. One by one, each of the cage bushin spoke the same phrase. But instead of the same element that Naruto spoke, they spoke the other 4 elements. Dragon King Blood. Release. Wind. Dragon King Blood. Release. Earth. Dragon King Blood. Release. Water. Dragon King Blood. Release. Lighting. The 4 other Kage Bushin were quick to be covered with the tattoos, but the 4 were armed with different tattoos, and to the amazement of everyone in the ring and in the Hokage box. Naruto was now carrying a full burning flame in both hands and feet, while the other Kage Bushin were wielding either vortexes of wind, orbs of crackling lightning, flowing springs of water, and chunks of earth floating about. The gasps and comments on what they were seeing at the moment filled the whole ring as the people of Konoha, the dignitaries, ninjas, and the feudal lords. What they were seeing was utterly unheard of at the moment. Naruto and the other Kage Bushin grinned as they all looked at Neji, who was looking at the assembled force, and he was stunned at that moment, and the blonde genin replied with a very satisfied smile as he got into position. And the Kage Bushin did the same, and as soon as the position was set, it resembled the elemental chakra table usually seen in the academy. Naruto, who was currently using fire elemental manipulation, was in the lead, followed by the Kage Bushin using wind elemental manipulation, then by the Kage Bushin using lightning elemental manipulation, who was then followed by the Kage Bushin using earth elemental manipulation, and lastly by the Kage Bushin using water elemental manipulation. Like what you see. This is my personally created elemental Kage Bushin formation jutsu. This is my personal jutsu, and only I can do it. I said I was going to beat you. And now I intend to do just that. The 5 attacked Neji, and Neji was quickly on the defensive and tried to fire a number of shuriken, but the Kage Bushin, who controlled earth, quickly raised his hands, and out of nowhere came a massive wall of earth that blocked the shuriken, and Neji looked up as the Kage Bushin using wind came from the wall of hardened earth and attacked him with a powerful pair of wind and spheres that forced him to move away, but Neji had no time to respond when the earth wall suddenly surged forward like water. And the pillar slammed right into him. Aoug. Neji used his arms to block, but he was sent back as a flat pillar of earth slammed hard into him and forced him hack. Neji had no time to relax just yet as another Kage Bushin came right at him with a pair of shuriken, and he was able to evade them, but before he could make an attack, this one revealed that it was the one who controlled water, and he merely moved his hands and began unleashing whips of pure hard water, and Neji tried to block. But the Kage Bushin was able to soften the water and it splashed into Neji. It was actually a trick, and Neji got hit hard by the other water tendril, which was hard and hit like a whip and sent him reeling. He barely had enough time before Naruto, who still wielded fire, was joined by the Kage Bushin, who was controlling wind, and the two then forced their hands forward and unleashed a combined blast of fire and wind, and Neji quickly realized that he was facing serious danger, as there was no way he could withstand a combined attack from both fire and wind, as the massive vortex of fire and wind hit the area before him. The Hyuga branch member barely had time to breathe as he barely avoided a massive blast of pure lightning from his side as the lightning-wielding Kage Bushin unleashed powerful arcs of lighting from his arm at that moment. Even so, Neji did not get away scot-free. Before he could fully escape, the Kage Bushin leaped forward and in a spinning flip brought down a spinning back heel kick that was covered in pure lighting, and Neji got hit hard on the side of his body and sent flying back. Neji gasped as he was covered in crippling lightning that stunned him considerably, but was not going to get a break as he was suddenly hit from the back and sent flying into the air as the Earth Kage Bushin fired a pillar of solid earth from below Neji and sent him flying upward, and then the Hyuga was unable to counter as Naruto came in with his fists and feet covered in flames and unleashed a powerful barrage of punches and kicks that hit Neji hard and following uppercut and sent the Hyuga flying once more. The water-wielding Kage Bushin came into play as he leaped upward and unleashed a massive wave of water that turned into a massive hand which grabbed Neji and swung him around the ring and then released him and sent Neji sliding on the earth, and when he stopped, he coughed out some blood and he looked to see Naruto and all 4 of his element-wielding Kage Bushin moving in formation, and he couldn't help but try to get to his feet. Naruto growled and spoke to Neji. So? Had enough. Neji was not going to give up as he got back to his feet. He was not going to give up at all at the moment. However, Naruto was not the kind to let things go easily, and he decided to take it up a notch, and he nodded to all his Kage Bushin and then to Neji and everyone else's surprise. The earth-wielding Kage Bushin became fire, the fire-wielding Naruto now wielded water, the wind-wielding Kage Bushin became earth, and the lighting-wielding Kage Bushin became wind. This effectively made Naruto and his Kage Bushin switch places, and since Neji could not tell which was the real Naruto due to the Kage Bushin having the same chakra and making his ability to see even harder where the real Naruto was at the moment. Naruto, however, was not giving up yet as he shouted another command. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Yet another group of Kage Bushin came on the scene. This time there were 10 of them, and sure enough the newly summoned Kage Bushin shouted the same Dragon King blood release command, and they were quickly covered by the tattoos and using different elements. Neji now found himself surrounded by a much larger number of Kage Bushin at the moment, and all of them were wielding a different element and were ready and eager for a fight. The Hyuga couldn't help but see himself surrounded by those Kage Bushin who were wielding fire, wind, water, earth and lightning. He didn't know what to do at this point in time, and before he could do anything. All of them charged at him and he got ready to defend himself, but before he could do so, 3 Cage Bushin wielding earth hit him with several earth-based attacks. The first included a flying wall of earth, the second several large chunks of earth powerful enough to crush bones and pulp flesh, and the other one was a number of earth tendrils. Neji managed to evade most of them, but his injuries made his reaction time even slower as he was hit by a part of the wall and sent rolling back as the 3 wind-wielding Cage Bushin attacked in tandem and he was sent flying into the sky with a pillar of wind and Neji was thrashed about left and right and then 3 Cage Bushin wielding water moved upward. Being able to fly with the use of water to propel them upwards and then all 3 unleashed a powerful wall of water that slammed hard into Neji and sent him down to the ground. Neji tried to get up as he was soaked in water and as he did so, he looked up and got a full blow to the face with a lighting-covered uppercut and was only able to scream in pain as his body was stunned by the attack and he saw 2 of the same lighting-wielding Cage Bushin making their move. One leaped over the shoulders of the one that gave him the uppercut and kicked him solidly in the chest and sent him flying back. And the third did the same and followed him in mid-flight and flipped in flight to deliver a powerful reverse heel kick covered in lightning that sent him crashing down to the ground once more. The crowd could only watch in shock while the other jonin were very much surprised. Incredible. To be able to use all 5 elements without hand seals, not to mention being able to shrug off that many injuries and hit with even greater force, speed, stamina, and recovery. I guess my father was not kidding when he said that Naruto's Kekkei Genkai was unique. Asuma said as he took a fresh cigarette and looked at the sight of Neji being beaten so easily at the moment. When the fight had started it turned from a supposed one-sided battle into a powerful free-for-all fight that was impressive to the core as Naruto fought with a skill that was against the image of him being the class clown. As the fight grew more intense, it seemed that Neji had the chance when he used the special attack of the Hyuga main branch family. But Naruto not only survived it but shrugged off the effects without any damage and then used his Kekkei Genkai. And this was the result. I agree. This is certainly not the Naruto many of us knew back in the day. Kurenai replied as she gazed at the situation before her. Hinata would no doubt have been impressed as well in her mind as she looked at Naruto who was standing defiantly, surrounded by his Cage Bushin who wielded the elements easily and was more than capable in inflicting massive damage and attacks on Neji at the moment. She was impressed by the way Naruto had fought with Neji and wondered just what sort of training he had been undergoing for the past month to be at this level of ability. This was on Kekkei Genkai that in her mind was proving to give even the noble Hyuga clan's Kekkei Genkai a beating. The other Chunin and Jonin were also impressed at the rate this fight was turning out. Naruto was proving to be more than a match for Neji. If Neji attacked, he would be able to cut or hit Naruto hard enough due to the fact that Naruto's body is a lot harder than normal and was a lot stronger and Naruto could use the elements as shields to protect himself in combat. Further adding a high degree of ability for the blonde genin. His attacks were also deadly, as since his Kekkei Genkai allowed him to control elements without hand seals and without harming him, this allowed him to use the elements to further increase his combat damage, and the results were obvious with some of Naruto's attacks on Neji, namely the ones where his arms and legs were covered in lightning, as attacks from that had a stunning effect on Neji's body, as the energy sent his nerves on haywire. And even forced Neji to stop using the Byakugan. Hayashi himself was very much surprised by the results. Like all the clan heads, he had balked at the idea of Naruto being the head of his own clan, as such a thing has never happened before in so many years, and he too did not like Naruto all that much, as he too was familiar with Naruto's dark secret. Hayashi also knew of his daughter's long-time crush on Naruto for some time, as despite his attitude towards Hinata, he did keep tabs on her. When he found out that she was attracted to Naruto he was displeased but made no move to stop it. Hearing Hinata would train her best to get not just his approval, but Naruto's own approval and recognition as well. Now that he saw Naruto's Kekkei Genkai in action against Neji, he couldn't help but feel a bit threatened. This ability was totally unheard of. This Kekkei Genkai descended from the blood of some mythical creature that supposedly visited their village and granted its power to Naruto, and many of the clan heads and the ninja, many of them thought of it as something that would be nothing more than but after all he had seen. This was different. Naruto wasted no time and quickly closed the distance, and so did all 14 of his Cage Bushin. Neji decided to take one last shot at defeating Naruto, but that was not going to work as all the Cage Bushin vanished instantly. What? Neji tried to react at that moment, but he was too late as the real Naruto who had secretly burrowed his way underground with the use of earth, making a 15th Cage Bushin to take his place, and had been able to evade the Byakugan, and as soon as he leaped out, he unleashed a powerful right hook that finally sent Neji flying, and then he flipped and attacked the reverse spinning heel kick that hit Neji right in the head, and that was enough to send Neji to the ground. Hitting the ground with a bang as he coughed out blood. The real Naruto glared and was far from done as he lifted Neji by the neck and he began to choke the Hyuga clan member and glared at him and ready to fist. You tried to kill Hinata with one strike, I think I should give you the same experience to be fair, now die. Genma tried to move in, but seeing how Naruto had easily demolished Neji, he was more cautious. Ayashi looked on and felt worried as he was about to see Neji be killed. Neji couldn't help but feel that this was the end. But in truth, Naruto stopped his fist a mere inch from Neji's face and he pulled it back and spoke. Do you apologize? What? I said I was going to beat an apology out of you for those comments you aimed at Hinata and to those whose dreams you tried to talk down, and now that you can barely stand, I suggest you give me the apology I asked for. Come on Neji. It's not that hard, is it? Or are you too proud to say those words? Pride means nothing here, your life is in my hands at this moment. How does it feel to know your life now hangs in the hand of one who used to be a failure? Naruto then released Neji and spoke to him as Neji to the ground. Do you know how many times I failed the graduation exams? Neji looked at Naruto who glared back at him and the blonde continued. I failed many times and all because the one I couldn't master was the Bushin Jutsu. Weird, isn't it? I am able to make as many Kage Bushin that I want, but I couldn't even make one Bushin back in the academy. Let me tell you something Neji, you think I don't know what it means to carry a mark for the rest of your life? I do, I carry a burden that I have to live with for the rest of my days, but unlike you, I don't accept the fate handed down to me. Do you think you know the pain and grief of being cursed? You know nothing. You don't know what it feels like to know that every time you turn your back, people call you a monster, demon, idiot, and worse. You don't know how it feels to have them look at you as if they wished you were never even born. You have no idea how lonely, isolating, and depressing it feels to know that every day you have to go back home and be alone for the rest of your life. I had to live like that for 12 long years. You didn't have to, you're a Hyuga, one of the noble families, even if you are one of the branch family. Everyone only has to hear your name and they look at you with respect and admiration, you were born with that talent and ability. You didn't have to claw and fight your way out of the dirt where you are, you didn't have to try and fight to prove you are more than everyone thinks you to be. Not like me. Or Lee, or even Hinata even if she is like you. The villagers were silent, even the ones who would have spoken against Naruto were rendered dumb. They had thought this battle would have been simply a defeat for Naruto and would be quick as they were eager to see Sasuke Uchiha in combat, but the titanic battle they had witnessed had changed their minds. They had thought that Naruto was going to be easily beaten by Neji, despite his supposed Kekai Genkai, which they laughed at and called it nothing but a weakness before the Byakugan of the Hyuga. But now they were taking their words back because not only did Naruto withstand and survive, but outright demolished Neji, who was last year number 1 genin. Before my Kekai Genkai awakened, I had few friends and everyone treated me like dirt, like I am useless, like I am nothing but trash to be ignored. Not this time, I have made it here to this very ring and now I have beaten you, the one who thinks fate cannot be changed. An old friend gave me a message and it taught me an important lesson. Fate is something that we make for ourselves. As long as I have the will to fight, the courage to stand, and to prove that I can break free from my chains, then fate or destiny is something I forge for myself. So don't you dare preach all that crap about destiny being set to me or anyone else because it's nothing but garbage. If one like me can be able to defy fate and destiny, stand tall and shake the very foundations of heaven itself, then what about you? Neji was silent as he saw a bird fly freely into the sky and he knew that he was defeated and spoke. I apologize. Good, now we're even. Genma could tell that Naruto was done and spoke to the crowd. The winner is Naruto Uzumaki. The arena. As Naruto walked off the ring, he was greeted by cries and shouts of congratulations and more, and he looked to see that the crowds were cheering the performance. He had proven to be more than anything they had pegged him for. There were still others who were not happy with him, but the rest were impressed, even the Jonin and Chunin who were there were impressed, and the other clan heads were also looking with interest at Naruto. It made him smile greatly at the results, and he felt that he was now making his way to the dream he had long held close to his heart, and when he saw the smiles of both Jiraiya and Fenrix, as well as Fenrix's nod of approval, he felt even more elated. In the area where the other contestants were, they were having mixed reactions to the battle they had witnessed and saw Neji being escorted away by Medic Nin. How the heck did he do all that? Was that really his Kekai Genkai? Who would have thought he would have that kind of power of all people? Fenrix heard the murmurs quite easily and laughed a bit to himself in good jest and then directed his attention to his ward and student. He was very impressed with the way Naruto was able to offset his weakness at being unable to harmoniously combine the elements he commanded and how to use it to give him a very lethal and flexible tactical advantage in a fight. Not bad at all. Jiraiya had to agree and then he got serious and spoke to the two of them. Alright, I have a feeling Orochimaru had seen this and he will be very interested in getting his plans underway. You two will have to do what you can so we have time to prepare. I'll talk with the Hokage and get things underway, you guys get ready for anything. Right. But that out of the way for the time being, Jiraiya left and both Fenrix and Naruto moved to the viewing box for the other participants. Fenrix and Naruto stopped when the two of them heard someone call out to the two of them and it was a certain young female voice. And then Naruto-kun. Sakura couldn't help but feel something different in herself at the moment as she looked at Naruto who was walking with a triumphant smile on his face. She had recalled his never say die attitude that coupled with his newfound powers meant that he was not going to the very same young kid she knew back then, not this time. She heard the reactions of the crowd, namely by the younger females her or above her age. He's certainly different. No kidding, and he's gorgeous, I hope he won't mind if I ask to join his clan soon. Ino likewise had heard the rumors and turned to Sakura and asked the pink-haired teammate of Naruto if what she heard about Naruto being the head of his own clan was true. Hey, is it really true that Naruto's head of his own clan? Sakura nodded a bit as she knew that according to Konoha law, a Kekkei Genkai user must be the head of the clan. It had been that way since the Hyuga and the Uchiha clans had existed in Konoha's history. Naruto's Kekkei Genkai was very powerful, and since he was the only known user of the style, it would make sense that he would be head of his own clan. I think so. Why do you ask? I think that would mean that he would have to find a wife in order to make that clan grow. I can wager a bet that he's going to be very busy once all this is over. That and the fact he's changed is certainly going to make him very popular. Sakura had to admit that Ino had a point there and she couldn't help but witness how Naruto was moving about and bathing in the cheers and shouts. She couldn't help but feel some envy as she realized that compared to Sasuke and Naruto, she had little to offer the team she was with, but she was quick to relax and remember that she still had some good enough skills to put to good use. She then wondered just where Sasuke and Kakashi were at the moment, they should have been here already, and that made her very worried. In the hallway. Naruto smiled at Hinata and spoke to the shy Hyuga heiress. I see you've made it, Hinata-san, how are you feeling? I feel a bit better. But it still hurts a bit. Fenrix however sensed that Hinata's injuries were a lot worse than they were and she needed proper medical treatment in order to be fully healed and he had an idea. He had brewed some healing potions in his free time as he was very knowledgeable about their creation. The supplies they had in the mansion were enough to make a fair number of them. Dragon Ascendants usually used the potions to deal with some levels of injury that they couldn't withstand easily and the potion he had would be more than adequate in healing Hinata's injuries. With that in mind, he took it out and handed it to Naruto. Naruto knew that it was, and that was due to the fact that he had been present when the potion was made and he too had noted that Hinata didn't seem that fully healed. Naruto looked at the potion handed to him by Fenrix to give to Hinata and he looked at his mentor and after seeing Fenrix give a smile, he nodded and gave the potion to Hinata. The potion was specially made as apart from training in the martial arts, as well as elemental manipulation, the senior dragon ascendant taught his student the art of potion making and provided him with a basic understanding of making special potions for healing, and this potion was known as the Spirit of Life. The potion resembled something that was deep red in color and comprised of a mixture of powerful herbs and liquids that the senior ascendant knew were good for healing major wounds as he could see that Hinata had been badly injured and required the potion's powers at the moment and since Naruto's work was good enough for this kind of injury, there was nothing wrong with him giving it to Hinata. Hinata took the large vial and wondered just what was inside of it. What is this, and Naruto-kun? It'll help with your injuries, Hinata, don't worry, it's perfectly safe. Hinata nodded and removed the stopper and took a drink of the liquid and finished it. It had a sharp but pleasant taste and seemed to let some form of warmth flow through her body at the moment. And to her amazement, the wounds in her body had fully healed and she was back to being fit and strong again. The Hyuga heiress smiled and sighed as she spoke to Naruto. DT, thank you so much, Naruto-kun, I feel much better. Naruto smiled at that and replied. No problem. Hinata couldn't help but feel very happy with herself and with Naruto. Not only had he defeated Neji with his own Kekkei Genkai, but he was being recognized by the village in a more positive light. And it showed as Naruto was very happy and it made her feel very happy for him even more. She then wondered if he wouldn't mind. Ah. What am I thinking? The Hyuga heiress blushed bright red at the thought she suddenly had in her mind. She had wanted to ask him if he was going to be able to be free this afternoon after the finals. The young woman wondered where those thoughts had come from and she was able to calm herself before she did something totally embarrassing. She also couldn't help but have a thought on asking Naruto if he was really going to be ahead of his own clan. She had heard the rumors and it made her very curious. Hinata was educated in many things and was very familiar with the law requiring that a clan head must have a wife in order to start up a clan and she began to think. No. I can't do that. I'm still too young. And I don't think my father would approve, but still. Oh, if Naruto-kun asked me to be his wife, it would. Hinata was so deep in her thoughts that she was not aware that Naruto was walking towards her, and he was very concerned as to why Hinata was blushing so hard and wondered if she had a fever. Hey, Hinata, are you alright? You have a fever or something? The moment Hinata realized that Naruto was right next to her and touching her forehead, she blushed to the point her face was glowing like a red-colored light bulb in the dark, and she fainted right away, allowing Naruto to catch her. Hinata. Hinata. Are you alright? Say something. Henrix laughed a bit at the sight, and he couldn't help but look on as Naruto tried his best to wake Hinata up. He had observed Hinata for a very long time, and he knew just how much of a deep affection the young woman had for his charge and how much she liked him and sought his attention. Fenrix had been amused by this fact and saw the way Hinata looked at Naruto, and he had to admit that Hinata certainly was different, to be among the few who was deeply attracted to Naruto and not to Sasuke. The fact that she was the heiress to the Hyuga clan made her a viable candidate for Naruto to take as a bride to build his own clan. But that was something that only her father could decide. He had studied the history of the Hyuga clan, he knew about the division between the branch family and the head family, and through that, he knew of the issue Hinata's cousin Neji had with the head family. He knew about the fact that Hiashi's brother Hisashi had always despised the head family, and he knew about the events that led to Neji becoming bitter towards the head family. He knew that long ago, a ninja from the Land of Lightning had been to Konoha for the signing of a treaty, but in reality, the ninja had been sent to kidnap a member of the Hyuga clan, and it was none other than Hinata. Hiashi defeated and killed the ninja. The Land of Lightning was unhappy and demanded Hiashi's dead body as compensation for the death of their ninja. He knew that the Land of Lightning was only interested in the Byakugan, and Hiashi's body would be the best chance to study it. However, that was when Hisashi died and the death of his father changed Neji, creating his hatred for the head family and his belief that fate could not be changed. However, Fenrix knew that there was more to the story. Hayashi himself had volunteered to take his brother's place. Back then Hayashi had been willing to die to prevent another bloody war between Konoha and Kumo, but it was when he was told that Hisashi would take his place as the seal on him would be used to destroy the Byakugan and deny their enemy access to the Byakugan. He knew that Hayashi did not like the idea as he knew that Hisashi still had his son Neji and was against it, but Hisashi had said that while he hated the head family, he wanted to save his brother and it was his choice. He knew that Hisashi knew that his death would save Hayashi and also prevent war and death to befall Konoha again. He also knew that Hisashi had asked Hiashi to tell Neji the reason why he chose to do what he did, and he regretted that he had only shown his bitterness in front of Neji all his life, and he wanted his son to make his own way in the world. He was aware that Hiashi had not told Neji the truth of his father's death, since he was hoping that Neji would be able to be mentally ready to accept the truth. He was also aware of Hinata's desire to prove herself to not just Naruto, but herself and her father. He secretly knew that Hayashi did not really think Hinata was weak, far from it, Hinata had the talent and the potential to be a worthy successor to the Hyuga clan. It was Hinata's lack of confidence and weak drive to succeed that was the factor Hayashi focused on. He couldn't blame Hayashi for that, as he was aware that only the most capable deserved to be clan leader. It was the same for the dragon race as only the most experienced, capable, skilled, and more were chosen to be Dragon King. He knew that there was no doubt Hiashi and Neji were deep in discussion on the truth of things, namely about the truth behind his father's death, and there was no doubt in the Dragon Ascendant's mind that things would be different from here on out. In the medical bay of the area. Father. Neji held the letter in his hands and was trembling as he read the last writing on the letter made by his father. He had been resting and thinking about how he had been beaten and the words Naruto had said. He then turned and it was when Hiashi came in and he spoke to him about the truth of his father's death. At first he refused to listen and said that Hiashi's words were nothing more than lies and were useless in making things better. He shouted to his uncle that he had ordered his father's death and there was nothing to change that. However, it was then that Hiashi handed the scroll to him, and when he read it, he was stunned by the words. He couldn't help but see the truth written by his father who used his own signature handwriting, showing that the scroll was indeed made by his father. As he was finished, he looked at Hiashi and spoke. Is this? Hiashi nodded. Yes, I never handed you that scroll before because I wanted to make sure that you were ready, and now that you are. I must beg forgiveness for all that has happened. Neji was shocked by this as he saw Hiashi kneeling before him and speaking to him with utmost truthfulness. I am sorry for all you had to go through, Neji, and I pray that you can forgive me for all that has happened. Neji was feeling all the more confused, but his decision was clear and he placed aside the letter and replied. Please uncle. Stand up, I forgive you. Later. Niji looked out into the sky and wondered just what the future held for him. He had always wanted to be free, and now that he knew the truth of his father's death and that he was free to make his own decisions in life. As he looked at the clouds and recalled the old saying that he had heard before. The truth shall set you free. Knowing the truth that despite the fact he chose death, his father chose that path of his own free will and was never forced into it, he could have refused since he would have not wanted to die for the head family, but he chose to do so and not as a member of the branch family, but as Hiyashi's brother. Niji thought it over and checked his injuries and decided on his course of action. I will not lose ever again, father, I swear to you. I will not lose ever again, I will make my own destiny, and I will make you proud of me. As for Hayashi, who was also deep in thought, the head of the Hyuga clan had thought of something important, something that he knew he should have done ever since he became head of the Hyuga clan, but hesitated to do. After seeing Niji's growth and his natural skill, it was about time that he went to work on mending some old mistakes. The Hyuga clan was in a rift that had to be healed, and he knew just what to do. He also thought about the future of his daughter Hinata. The rest of the matches proved to be worth watching in Naruto's mind, as well as that of Fenric's. Both senior and junior dragon ascendants. Naruto's month-long training with his senior ascendant teacher had taught him the value of studying a fight to know just how the battle would turn out, and the next battle he witnessed was the battle between Shikamaru and Temari, while many of the crowds were against the whole thing. Temari and Shikamaru were going at it, and the lazy but intellectually gifted genin of Konoha had said something that apparently had angered Temari as she attacked him with great strength and speed. However, Shikamaru was showing his intellect in the fight, and Fenrix approved of it, while Naruto cheered Shikamaru on to see how the fight would turn out. All the while, both were being eyed by Gaara. The sand-wielding ninja had a lot to think about after witnessing Naruto's abilities in combat, and he was eager to see who among them would survive a one-on-one fight. The fight turned to Shikamaru's favor, and he was about to be able to win, but he surrendered, and when that happened Naruto was not happy, and neither was Ino, who had been cheering him on before. Fenrix, however, had seen that Shikamaru's decision to forfeit was the right one. The boy was exhausted and didn't have enough chakra to hold Temari. And he told that to Naruto as well, and Naruto had to admit that in light of the situation, Shikamaru made the right move. However, it was not long before the main fight everyone was hoping to see was about to start. A lot of them were eager to see the fight between Gaara of Suna and Sasuke of Konoha. And the sight was getting very interesting, and it annoyed Naruto a bit on what his teammate was up to. I wonder where Sasuke and Kakashi-sensei disappeared to this time. They should have been back at least a day or two ago. Whatever technique Sasuke has learned must take a long time to master Naruto. That is why they take so long. In fact, they should already be here. Are you sure about Fenrix-sensei? Yes. I can feel them coming already. You should be able to do that too. Naruto tried to focus and faintly smiled as he felt the arrival of Kakashi and Sasuke, and that was enough for him. Fenrix observed that and smiled a bit. Naruto was already developing his ability to sense the chakra of another person, but it was not yet at the level needed to fully sense everything and everyone's life force in the world in all its entirety. For now it seemed that the long-awaited battle with Gaara and Sasuke facing one another was about to start as the two finally arrived, and Sasuke turned to see Naruto and Fenrix looking, and he merely gave a slight smirk and got ready to show his own growth under Kakashi. It was then that Lee and Guy had arrived, and both of them were told of the victory of Naruto's Kekkei Genkai over Niji. Lee was impressed and hoped to face Naruto's own Kekkei Genkai to see how powerful it was if it could outmatch Niji's Byakugan. The battle was starting and everyone was cheering Sasuke on, but both Naruto and Fenrix had their doubts. They both recalled the time that they had heard Gaara's words, and the two knew that this fight was not going to be simple. Despite the fact that Sasuke was using the same power, technique and speed as Lee, both knew that Lee's taijutsu skills were not enough, and that is that. It was then that Gaara created a massive sphere of sand that surrounded him, and no amount of physical attacks from Sasuke could break through it. However, it seemed that Sasuke was not deterred, and then he summoned his chakra and created a sphere, and then ran down with lightning coming from it, as well as a strange sound. I turned to Kakashi and spoke. So that's why you taught him the same techniques I taught Lee. You taught him your lighting edge. Yep. That's only possible since he is an Uchiha with a Sharingan and is like me, a lighting chakra user type. Lightning edge? What's that? Both Ino and Sakura asked. The two Jonin and Guy took the explanation to them as well as Chaoji. The lighting edge is a term for Kakashi's only original technique. It's named that way that it was able to cut through a lightning bolt during one of Kakashi's missions as a Jonin at a young age. Cut a lightning bolt. Wow. That real? I continued with the words as Sasuke was still there to attack Gaara's sand shield. But its real name is Chidori. Chidori. I nodded and replied. That is the Lightning Edge's real name. It is an assassination-style attack that focuses the chakra to the arm until it can cut through anything it hits and is very fast. It sounds like 1,000 birds chirping as well, which further adds weight to the name it has. However, it is still a ridiculous move in my mind. Kakashi snorted a bit in a friendly manner. You're the one to talk. Isn't that right, Lee? Lee didn't say much and was silent for a reason. He had once mocked Sasuke that he was not fast enough in the body to match him, but now the Uchiha was able to do so. Naruto and Fenrix however were not focused on the technique, impressive as it was, they had other thoughts in their minds. It seemed like Sasuke would come out on this battle alright. But the crowd were about to get something none of them bargained for. Blood. It's my blood. The cries from Gaara frightened everyone as he sounded like he was turning insane with rage, shock, pain, and anger. It was then that Sasuke had no choice but to shout in his own pain and use his lightning to free himself as something began to wrap around his arm and he was surprised to see the sand coming around him and he knew that he had to escape fast. Something was not right. It was after he escaped that a massive arm of sand came out from the hole that was in Gaara's sand sphere and tried to crush him like a grape. Everyone in the arena gasped in shock at the sight of the massive arm that came out and tried to crush Sasuke. Temari and Kankuro however had seen that before and knew quickly that things were about to get very ugly. The elder brother of Gaara recalled seeing that happen and he was not able to eat for a week after that and Temari was no worse for wear either. What the heck? Kakashi was surprised greatly as well as Guy was as they looked on at the sight before them. They both knew Gaara was different, but this. Sakura and everyone in the Rookie 9 were also shocked by the sight and in Sasuke's case. He heard a dark bestial growl and then he saw something moving and then he saw it. A very evil-looking eye with great bloodlust, hunger, rage and more looking right at him and he felt fear hit him right in the heart and body. What is that? Fenrix sensed something terrible awakening deep in the sphere of sand. He could feel it, something dark, malevolent and bloodthirsty. It was not a very good feeling and he could see that despite Naruto not being up to the level to sense it felt something in the air like he did as well. This was not a good thing. Something's wrong, sensei. There's something in the air. It's Gaara. Or rather, what is inside of him. It was then that the plan of Orochimaru took center stage. The masked Anbu who had been able to witness the powerful battles with Naruto and Neji being the first and then this made his move and suddenly the audience began to fall asleep and in moments, everyone in the arena were under the Jinjutsu that the Anbu was casting on them. However, not everyone was caught as several Konoha ninja were able to counter the jutsu and it was the signal awaited by Orochimaru's forces as hordes of sound and sand ninja began to attack Konoha from the inside and outside. And it was then that a smokescreen covered the Hokage box and then in moments, the fighting had started. The invasion, despite the snag, had begun. In the ring. Naruto and Fenrix however were unaffected by the Jinjutsu due to the fact that both of them had dragon blood in their veins, which allowed them the ability to resist illusion-based attacks on them, and as soon as they saw the ninja, they leaped into the ring and began to fight them off. Several sound ninja were quickly sent flying back with intense force as Fenrix merely gave a light punch to them, but unlike Naruto, Fenrix could unleash his full strength and if he had not controlled his blows, it would have sent them flying beyond the ring itself or dying from sheer impact force. Suna and Sound Ninja slamming hard into the walls and other parts of the arena by the two, the senior dragon ascendant moved quickly to his student's side and the two fought side by side and made their way to where Guy and Kakashi were at that moment. They had been so busy fighting that they were not aware that Sasuke had decided to go after Gaara, Temari and Kankuro when the three siblings had left the arena. The two Jonin were more than able to take care of themselves, that much the two could see as Guy's Taijutsu was more than enough to knock about any attacking sound and sand ninja, while Kakashi was proving to be more than able to fight well. Naruto quickly turned and blocked an incoming attack from a sound ninja towards Sakura, who was barely able to stop an attack directed at her unconscious friend Ino. The sound Jonin smile vanished as he saw that his sword was cracked when it struck Naruto at the neck, in which a stroke would decapitate a normal ninja. Naruto retaliated with a powerful kick towards the ribsage, and the sound of breaking ribs were heard, and the ninja was sent flying back. Three sand ninja attacked, but Naruto merely reacted by unleashing a powerful blast of fire coming from his mouth, surprising Guy and Kakashi as they saw that Naruto had not used any hand seals. The three ninja were burned and sent back as Naruto turned to Sakura. "You alright, Sakura-chan?" "I'm fine, but Ino's still out at the moment. What the heck is going on here?" Kakashi replied in answer to Sakura's question at the moment. "We're under attack by sound and sand. Apparently they were planning to hit us with our pants down and one of their agents used some sort of Jinjutsu to put everyone else to sleep. Only a few of us were able to counter the release jutsu." Fenrix then turned and saw what was happening with the Hokage and he knew just what was going on at this moment in time. The leader of this attack, Orochimaru, seems to be after the Hokage at the moment. There is a barrier being set up by 4 individuals who are also using some parts of the shield to protect themselves. The power in that barrier is considerable. Naruto looked and through his dragon blood enhanced vision, saw the very same thing that his dragon ascendant teacher was seeing at the moment, and he growled at the sight of the man who was currently facing the Hokage. He wanted to fight, but he knew that he had to help protect the village. The old man would not have him do anything else. Damn it. That bastard is behind everything, but I can't let Sasuke fight alone with Gaara, and I can't let the village suffer anymore. What should I do? Fenrix could see the conversation between the two as they began to fight one another. He was skilled in reading expressions and lips and could tell that despite Orochimaru's confidence in the coming battle and his age, Sarutobi was intent of rectifying his mistake of letting Orochimaru live once and for all. The senior ascendant wished to aid Sarutobi, but knew that doing so would not be wise at the moment, and this was between the two of them, and interfering was a mistake as well. He could see the conflict in Naruto's eyes and actions and replied. We must trust the Hokage Naruto, he will need us to defend the village, and we need to give the ninja of the village time to organize the defense. Once we are done, we can help in finding Gaara, now come on. Naruto nodded and the two of them moved out, while Kakashi turned to see Shikamaru and Sakura ready for action. He knew that these two had not worked together before, but he knew that they were going to be helpful in locating Sasuke. Naruto's words about Gaara being unlike anything Sasuke ever faced were proven true when he and the others saw the massive bestial arm of sand that nearly crushed Sasuke's own arm when he used the Chidori on Gaara's sand shield. He had a feeling that Sasuke was not facing a normal ninja, and he began to think about that more carefully. There was only one possible reason. Gaara. He must be carrying a tailed beast as well. Sakura, you and Shikamaru do what you can to track down. With that, the group left, unaware that Shino and his bugs had tagged along, with the intent of finishing a scheduled fight with a certain puppet-wielding sand ninja. Several sand and sound ninja were about to overwhelm some of the Konoha ninja, who were fighting back when they were suddenly hit by a combined blast of wind and lightning, and many of them fell dead, as both Naruto and Fenrix moved in to buy the Konoha ninja enough time to rally and counterattack. The two ascendants fought well with one another, and several sound ninja was shocked as both warriors suddenly unleashed a torrent of flame at them from their mouths without using any hand seals. The ninja who were part of Orochimaru's forces were quickly and easily incinerated by the attacks as Naruto and Fenrix fought alongside the Konoha ninjas. The ninjas were surprised to see both Naruto and Fenrix fight through the numbers of ninja that came at them. One band of sound ninja were violently sent flying by a powerful wind blast from the senior dragon ascendant, while another band of sand ninja were hit hard by a powerful wall of water from Naruto. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Naruto summoned his Kage Bushin and then had all of them transform, and the sound and sand ninja forces found themselves under assault from Naruto and his Kage Bushin, who were using various elements in unison. Arcs of lightning, tongues of fire, waves of water, walls of earth, and blasts of wind sent the ninja flying and eventually running for their lives. And no one could blame them as Naruto's powers proved to be more than enough to stem the tide for the Konoha ninjas to rally and counterattack. Fenrix himself was able to combine the elements under his command with overwhelming force, sending blasts of wind mixed with fire, with undeniably devastating results on the ninja forces arrayed before him. He would then unleash a combination of water whips, mixed with arcs of lighting, and did so with minimal effort. Showing his much higher level of power and skill over Naruto. The two stopped and saw that more ninja were coming into the area. No doubt they had been held back as reinforcements, just in case the initial waves were beaten back, and it seemed that they were now coming into play. The two looked at one another, and Naruto was not happy with the situation as he felt that he needed to help the others deal with Gaara, and while he knew that Sasuke would fight his hardest, he was dealing with a ninja who had a demon inside of himself, and the creature was more than a deadly foe in combat. Fenrix then touched the ground and closed his eyes, making Naruto wonder what his mentor in the ways of the dragon ascendants was up to. It was then that Fenrix spoke to Naruto. Naruto. We're going to have to call forth some support, you will need to work with me on this one. Naruto had no idea what his sensei was up to, but he trusted his sensei well enough and did as his sensei in the dragon ascendancy arts showed. The two of them drew their own blood and it glowed deep white for a moment and the two drew a simple tree pattern that was moving and then Fenrix and Naruto spoke the spell. Warriors of nature, guardians born of the bones, flesh and blood of the earth, hear our call and heed our wish, awaken from your long slumber and fight as you have in eons past. We summon you. The blood that both dragon ascendants spilled glowed deep green and then faded and to the eyes of all, the spell fizzled out. But it didn't. There was a massive rumble in the air and every ninja stopped from what they were doing. It even reached the rooftop that both Sarutobi and Orochimaru were on and then to the shock of the invading ninja. The trees in the area surrounding the walls of Konoha began to move and come to life. The trees seemed to be alive, and then several squads of Suna and Sound Ninja were suddenly sent flying by the impacts of several of the long limbs of the living trees, others were sent flying or were crushed by the feet of the tree men. Naruto gaped and looked at Fenrix, who smiled and spoke. It seems that the power of the ancients still flows strongly in this world. One ninja from Konoha was gaping in shock at the sight and spoke out loudly. What are they? Fenrix then answered the question. They go by many names of young men, but either Treinter Ent will do. They are living trees, guardians of the wilds and of long ancient groves. The members of the ancient dragon race who inhabited this world millennia ago helped create them to guard the wilds, as well as fight under the command of mortal humans who petitioned for their aid. It also applies to those who have undergone the blood ascension ceremony, and when the dragon race and their loyalist descendants left this world in the Exodus, the Ents went to an ancient slumber. They only awaken when summoned by one who has a pact or tie with the dragon race. Such as me and Naruto. They will defend Konoha with you, young man, so you have no need to fear them. But I doubt the same could be said for your enemies. And that was true, as the ninja forces of Suna and Sound found that their weapons and current abilities were not enough to stop the mobile juggernauts as they trained, or rather Ents would lift up large boulders to throw at their reinforcements and use their arms and legs to either crush the incoming ninja or send them flying about. Fenrix turned to Naruto and spoke. We should get Naruto moving, the others will need our help in tracking Gaara. Naruto nodded and the two of them left, allowing the Konoha ninja they had left behind to gape at the two. Such power was unheard of, and it took the fact that they still had to deal with the ninja in the village that woke them up. However, it was also when the plans for countering an invasion of Konoha came into effect, as the ninja forces of Konoha began to gather and launch a counter-attack. The Anbu also got involved as the other users of Kekkei Genkai began to fight back, such as Hiashi, Inochi, Shikaku, and Chaozu went on the attack. Naruto and Fenrix then caught up with Sakura, Pakin, and Shikamaru, but before they did, the two of them were in a discussion. Sarutobi smiled at the sight. He had been told by Fenrix Master so long ago about the ancient powers that slumbered deep in the world they lived in, and to know that Naruto was one of the very few with command of such powers made him see that the village would be in better hands. He then turned to fight Orochimaru once more. He knew that despite his old age and the fact that Orochimaru was stronger now, he was not going to let his past mistake be repeated, as he got his ally, Monkey King Enma, who was in his diamond staff form, ready for the soon-to-come fight. Orochimaru, however, spoke to Sarutobi. Naruto-kun has such a powerful bloodline. And you've hidden it from me all this time, Sarutobi-sensei. How did you manage that? I thought your spies would be able to tell you, but suffice to say, the power Naruto has is older than any Kekkei Genkai in existence. It might even rival the Sharingan if Naruto is able to master it completely. What? However, you won't be able to know everything. I will never tell you anything else other than Orochimaru, but you can be assured that I will defeat you here, and now, then I will kill you. Orochimaru glared and readied Kusanagi. Try me, old man. Sasuke tried his best, but even when he used Chidori to sever the sand arm that Gaara had, the Suna Genin was more than willing to fight and was even more determined to kill him. He would have tried to fight back, but he was almost out of chakra and he was in a very dire situation, and he was tempted to rely on the cursed seal. He recalled Kakashi's warning that he could only use the Chidori twice in one day, and then he would be out of chakra. When they had been training with the technique for days before the finals of the Chunin exams, he had been told that the limit was 2 times. If he went beyond that, he would die. He had been able to get past Temari in combat and conserved as much of his chakra as he could, as he knew that using it up against someone who was not his true target was. After defeating Temari, he had moved on but encountered Kankuro, who was fully rested and eager to pay Sasuke back for the stone he threw. But he was saved from losing more chakra by Shino, who had followed them in secret using his bugs. Gaara had been taunting him and it made him very angry, and he tried to use the cursed seal to give him an advantage, any advantage. You're too weak, Sasuke Uchiha, I will kill you here and now. Gaara lashed out, and with a newly regrown arm of sand, it seemed like the end. Fire Lance. Gaara was forced to move away at that moment as a spear of pure fire came right at him and forced him to break away from his attack on the prone and helpless Sasuke, and then he looked to see none other than Naruto and Sakura, along with Fenrix and Pakin. The group was leaving behind one of their members, namely Shikamaru, when they were being pursued by a number of elite Jonin sent by Orochimaru to keep an eye on Sasuke. Shikamaru had reasoned that they had only one shot and the one who would stay behind would be both the bait and the only one who would not come back. It was a tough choice, but Shikamaru had to do it, and thus the rest of them went ahead to catch up with Sasuke and Gaara, as well as his siblings. Naruto glared at Gaara, who was now covered in his sand form and was somehow allowing the demon inside of him to take front of the fight. He had seen Sakura about to be armed when he had fired the fire lance at Gaara, forcing the sand ninja to back away. He looked at Sasuke and could tell that his teammate was very low on chakra and couldn't fight anymore, and now it was his turn to fight. Fenrix looked at the two ninja and Naruto turned to his Dragon Ascendant sensei and spoke to him seriously. Fenrix sensei. Get Sasuke, Pakin and Sakura-chan out of here. This fight is mine now. I will defeat Gaara here and now. Are you sure? Yes. I asked this of you so let me fight him. Fenrix nodded as he recalled the time they had followed Sakura, Shikamaru and Pakin as well. Flashback. Fenrix sensei, I have a favor to ask. What is Naruto? I want to face Gaara alone, so please let me do this. Fenrix looked at Naruto and saw that his student meant it. The senior Dragon Ascendant had read all he could about Gaara, as well as Gaara's hidden residence. Valen had gathered much data in his travels before arriving in Konoha and had gathered enough information about the legendary Biju of this world, and he determined that they were of great power, not as powerful as the long-forgotten dragon race, but stronger nevertheless than normal beings. Fenrix had read all he could and knew the full story of the Shukaku that Naruto had mentioned when he had inquired about the incident in the hospital. The Shukaku was a powerful fighter with the control of sand and was a potential threat to an ascendant whose power level was the same as Naruto's but was considered very low-powered against someone like him. He knew it would be a good test for Naruto to use his powers but with some level of risk for his student as Naruto's powers were not yet at the level needed to be considered a full-scale ascendant. Are you sure of that? Yes I am. Gaara tried to kill Lee in his sleep and he would have killed others in my home. I can't let that happen, even if he and I are the same and I understand him, I will stop him, even if I have to kill him. Fenrix looked at Naruto and saw that there was no going back and he wanted to make that clear to his student. If you are dead set on this, you should know that in your current level of power, he is a potential threat and if you make a mistake, he can injure you despite your powers and most of all, I will not aid you in battle against him as you wish to face him alone, do you understand me Naruto? Naruto nodded. I do. Fenrix sighed and then nodded. Very well, when the time comes and if you truly want to do that, then I will let you face Gaara alone, I will protect your friends for you, I will not help you unless you truly need it, just promise me to fight with everything that you have here and now. I will. End of flashback. Fenrix nodded towards Naruto and he knew that the time had come for him to keep his promise to Naruto let him fight Gaara on his own, he might not like it, but this was real test for Naruto to finally face a foe who could give him a good enough challenge, in a way he had to thank Gaara, as he will be the key for Naruto put all he had learned into the battlefield and not hold back. Naruto was facing a foe who was like him in a way, but unlike Naruto, he had grown to hate and despite the world and see killing as his only satisfaction. That made Gaara a deadly foe and would be the one who would truly test his students' convictions and abilities. Good luck Naruto, do not fail. And with that, the senior Dragon Ascendant quickly grabbed both Sakura and Sasuke and quickly left the scene, and this left Naruto to face Gaara alone as the sand-covered genin and demon container faced the young Dragon Ascendant and gave a growl at him. You are going to be my greatest enemy and I will enjoy spilling your blood. Naruto however relaxed and then summoned his Dragon King blood heritage and soon enough the blonde genin spoke the command to trigger his power. Dragon King blood. Release. Wind. Naruto now wore the tattoos which were in the mode of wind and he had several small spheres of pure wind moving on his fists and he got ready to face Gaara and before they fought, he spoke to the enraged sand genin and container of the Shukaku. I will never let you harm a single life from my home village Gaara, I will stop you, even if I have to kill you. So be it. Let us see who is truly worthy of existence. You are stronger than that Sasuke kid, you are the one I want to kill. As Naruto faced Gaara and it seemed that the two were ready for a fight, Sasuke and Sakura turned to Fenrix who was calm and focused on the fight. Sakura spoke to the senior Dragon Ascendant. Aren't you going to help him? I already have, he has learned enough to show me that he can fight this battle on his own. What? But you said his power was still in its infancy, he's going to be in more than he can handle. That might be true, but he made his choice to fight for your sake and that of the village and all he cares about, this is Naruto's fight and his alone, I cannot interfere. Sasuke was surprised by this and Fenrix merely replied. He must use all he has learned from me to face Gaara on his own, this is going to be the real test, Gaara is not a normal person and he is strong in his own right and Naruto himself asked me before we arrived here to let him face Gaara on his own, I respect that and I see in his eyes that he wants to fight without my help. But you can't mean that. Sakura said as she tried to rush to help Naruto, but Fenrix however stopped her and spoke evenly. This is Naruto's fight Sakura Haruno, let him settle this, I will only help if he needs the help, this fight is more important to him than you can imagine, unlike Gaara who fights for himself, Naruto fights for others, namely you, Kakashi, Sasuke, Haruka, and everyone in the village. He cares more for you all than his own life, and that is what gives him the will, drive and power to face Gaara. If you are harmed, then it will all be for nothing. Fenrix then turned to see Sasuke's tattoos, and he couldn't help but be revolted by the sight of it. Kakashi and the Hokage told him a great deal about this Orochimaru and this cursed seal of his, which he had placed on another jonin of Konoha named Midarashi Anko. This cursed seal reminded him of some of the curse marks he had seen in his many years of existence, and while Naruto trusts his team, the senior dragon ascendant had his worries towards this mark, but kept his peace and focused on protecting the two from harm. He however had a feeling that sooner or later, things were going to get very ugly. In the meantime, Shikamaru sat down and gave a sigh of relief as Asuma finished up the task of dealing with the sound ninja forces. The genin had been able to hold them off, but he was finally out of chakra and the sound ninja were about to attack him and continue their pursuit, but his sensei arrived and he was in the clear. "You alright, Shikamaru?" "Yeah. Man, what a drag." In the forest, Gaara roared out and lashed with several powerful shuriken made of sand at Naruto, who was able to block the attacks with his wind manipulation abilities as he used the wind to form a shield. The shuriken were reduced to sand and Gaara roared out at Naruto. "Come on. Attack me. Let's see whose power is better than the other." Naruto was more than ready to attack as he moved in with his fist at the ready. His fist was surrounded by a vortex of air. The punch he unleashed to the tree was enough to rip through the tree itself. There on the now decapitated tree was a massive hole where Naruto's punch had struck. Gaara had been able to evade the attack and was now on another branch. Gaara unleashed a powerful strike from his sand-covered hands. The massive limb lashed out at Naruto as the blonde ninja and dragon ascendant leaped out of the way of the attack and moved to another tree. Naruto quickly charged right at Gaara, leaping off the tree like a comet and straight at Gaara. The sand ninja responded by unleashing a massive blast of chakra-enhanced air mixed with sand right at the blonde ninja. The attack struck Naruto and forced him back to the tree with a hard landing. The tree cracked on impact and Gaara unleashed his other sand arm. Naruto recovered and lashed out with a powerful straight punch while using the same leaping move. Gaara roared as Naruto attacked ripped through his arm of sand in the same way that Sasuke's Chidori had done, but he was ready as he leaped upward and then unleashed his other sand arm to smash hard into the blonde ninja. Gaara screamed at Naruto in his angered state as he wanted to finally end the life of the blonde ninja. Die. Naruto however was not going to just give up and die as he turned to face the incoming fist and cocked back his fist and unleashed a vortex of wind right at the incoming fist. Hail strike. The massive tornado that came from Naruto's hand smashed hard into the arm that Gaara unleashed tore right through it, forcing Gaara to revise his attacks as he landed on a nearby tree. The sand ninja then unleashed a hail of sand shuriken at Naruto, as well as another blast of air mixed with chakra and sand. The blast slammed hard into Naruto, and the tree he landed on suffered a considerable number of cuts, as well as having sections of itself torn off by the assault of sand shuriken and the sand, chakra-enhanced wind. Naruto braced himself, and while his dragon scale-covered skin was withstanding the attacks well enough, that certainly didn't mean he felt no pain as the sand shuriken hit him, as well as the sand with chakra-enhanced wind. This told him that Fenric's warning was correct, that despite his powers, Gaara could injure him. Naruto however withstood the assault as Gaara unleashed his arms once again. The blonde moved aside as one arm smashes into the tree branch he was on, while the other arm hits Naruto on the chest and sends him flying. He hits a tree hard, but the blonde gets up and quickly charges right at Gaara who roars and unleashes another strike. Naruto however quickly unleashes a number of Kage Bushin. One takes the blow from sand arm, and so does another Kage Bushin with the other sand arm. The other four had the same tattoos as Naruto does at that moment, and all five unleashed from their mouths a massive burst of flame. Dragon fire. Gaara uses his sand to block the 5 bursts of pure flame, but he still roared in pain as the heat from the attacks was much stronger than the techniques used by Sasuke. As an ascendant, Naruto's body had been altered to suit his new powers, as well as his newfound abilities. This gives him a considerable level of ability, and through practice, he could now unleash flames with greater ease. And with his powers awakened to full might and with considerably higher control than before, he was more than able to hold his own for the moment. Gaara managed to fire his other sand arm at Naruto, in hopes of stopping the Dragon Ascendant's fiery assault on him. The attack manages to force Naruto and his Kage Bushin to halt their combined strike, as well as to scatter away from the attack. Gaara used this as his chance, as he tore down several massive branches near him and turned them into massive missiles aiming right for Naruto. There were at least 4 of the massive branches aiming right at Naruto, and they were moving too fast as Naruto got up and spotted them. Naruto. Sakura yelled out in warning as despite the distance they had from the battle, she could see the level of danger Naruto was currently in at the moment. She knew that due to his bloodline, he would have much tougher resistance to pain, but she also knew that despite his powers, Naruto was still very much vulnerable to attack, and sure enough, she couldn't help but watch as Naruto managed to lash out with a fist at one of the massive tree missiles heading right for him. Crack. The massive punch from Naruto had very interesting results as the tree missile was hit dead center in the core and was split in half by Naruto's fist as it was covered in the glowing aura of his Dragon King blood-powered chakra as well as his strength. The tree branch was torn in half and Naruto quickly swatted another one while his Kage Bushin came in and unleashed a massive torrent of flame to reduce one more tree into nothing but ash and cinders. The others also took the next barrage of tree branch missiles that Gaara threw their way until Gaara unleashed another wave of sand-made shuriken. Naruto dodged the attacks as the shuriken tore deeply into trees and other parts of the battlefield, while the sand that followed was made into smaller lumps of hardened rock that acted like sandpaper or small blades, showing that Gaara was not going to let up in his plan to reduce Naruto into a corpse. The Dragon Ascendant skin was able to hold off the damage, but he knew that it still hurt him to be hit by those attacks, even more so since the attacks were enhanced by chakra as well. He quickly moved in and attacked with a powerful blast of his fire breath. Dragon Fire. The attack forced Gaara on the defensive and that allowed Naruto to use his speed to his advantage when he didn't have the bracers on to restrain his power. He was far beyond the speed of a normal person, with them on, his speed was reduced, but through the use of his now summoned wind element, he was able to rocket ride at Gaara by using the wind currents on his feet to propel him like a rocket at high speed. Gaara moved his arm away and was quite shocked to see Naruto ride at him, too close for him to counter-attack or defend with one fist at the ready. What? Take this. The blow hit Gaara right in the jaw and sent the sand ninja flying, and since Naruto wore the bracers to restrain his abilities until he was strong enough to use them well, he was lucky since if Naruto decided to attack without the bracers on, he would have shattered Gaara's head open like a rotten melon at the first swing. The blow in this case sent Gaara right off his perch and slammed hard into a pair of trees. He smashed through the first one and landed hard on the second. Gaara got up and allowed the sand to further consume his form, and he was now a small version of the sand raccoon demon known as Shukaku. I'll get you for that. Naruto quickly moved away as Gaara unleashed his sand arms once more, smashing into the branch he had been on a moment before, and he quickly moved in to attack Gaara and unleashed a powerful blast of air to attack Gaara with, that was blocked by Gaara, and Naruto quickly made a number of Kage Bushin, and with several of his Kage Bushin with him, he decided to go all out to finally end this fight before it got out of hand. However, Gaara was not going to let this be that simple as he pulled back his arms and blocked the attack and then fired out several more sand shuriken at Naruto and his Kage Bushin. The Kage Bushin blocked attacks and Naruto closed in and fired out a massive ball of pure air that smashed into Gaara's sand arms, blowing them apart and allowing Naruto to attack at a much closer range. As soon as Naruto was close up, he began to unleash a powerful barrage of punches at Gaara, who managed to block with his arms as well as his sand shield as he was being hit hard by the blonde ninja who was not stopping in his assault. Naruto quickly moved behind Gaara and as Gaara turned, he landed a kick right at Gaara to send the sand ninja flying to another tree and smashed hard into the said tree. Gaara got up and was getting even more enraged. The effects of Naruto's attacks on him were showing as parts of his sand form were already falling off of him and were also breaking down. Naruto was far from finished however as he shouted out once more. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. In a matter of moments, a large number of Kage Bushin were beside Naruto, all numbering a full 25 in all. Naruto knew that by using his already existing chakra, he could have made a lot more Kage Bushin to finally defeat Gaara by force of sheer numbers, but he had to be quick with defeating Gaara once and for all to stop his rampage on his village. With that in mind, he had to reserve as much power as he could manage to reserve. He knew that this was going to be very taxing on his body, but it had to be done either way. Dragon King Blood. Release. The 5 Kage Bushin on one group shouted fire and were now covered in the tattoos that showed their elemental affinity to be that of fire, while another group of Kage Bushin took the elemental affinity of water, the next group took the elemental affinity of air, the next group took to the elemental affinity of earth, and the last group took the elemental affinity of lightning. In effect, Naruto was surrounded by 25 Kage Bushin wielding different elemental affinities, and Gaara looked on in anger as he lashed out at Naruto and his Kage Bushin. I don't care how many you all are. You are all going to die. Naruto and his army made their moves and attacked Gaara in that exact moment. The groups also began to move in unison as well, unleashing massive attacks that replicated the very same power assault that Naruto had used back in the ring of the Chunin exams to battle Neji in combat, only in this case, the numbers advantage was working in Naruto's favor as the 5 Kage Bushin in each group would work in unison with one of another group, allowing for a variety of amazing and deadly elemental combinations. Fire mixed with lightning attacks, earth with water, wind mixed with fire and more. The combined assault was heavily injuring Gaara and destroying large sections of Gaara's sand armor and Shukaku form as the sand ninja was being pushed to his limit as Naruto and his elemental Kage Bushin were hitting with full force against him. Gaara moved back and the once deadly Shukaku form was badly damaged and falling apart, and Naruto knew he had the advantage, but decided to stick to close combat for the finish off, and with that in mind, the blonde genin decided to shut down his elemental powers, and he did so, and his Kage Bushin followed suit as he shouted once more. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. In less than a second, over 2,000 normal Kage Bushin joined the ranks of Naruto's already existing Kage Bushin. However, Naruto didn't use his Dragon King blood release, and neither did they. Doing so would have strained his still growing Dragon Ascendant powers, and he was already getting tired and wanted this fight to be over before things got out of hand. With the army of Kage Bushin next to him, it seemed that things were about to go Naruto's way. Temari's eyes widened at the sight before her as she saw something that by all rights would have been nigh impossible for a genin to do. She was familiar with the use of Kage Bushin and the rank it had. She had heard that some exceptional ninja could use this, yet even they could only make a certain number due to the nature of dividing chakra from the user to the Kage Bushin, which could weaken the ninja. But never in her entire life did she see anyone summon this many Kage Bushin at once. And even more so being able to do it despite fighting at a state where most ninja of genin rank would have collapsed from exhaustion. How can this be? Sasuke and Sakura were awed by the sight. They knew that Naruto could use Kage Bushin when they first saw him in action against Kakashi when they were taking part of the bell test. However, they had no idea that he was able to summon this many Kage Bushin at once. Sakura looked at her teammate and spoke out. That many Kage Bushin at once? That's not possible for a genin. Sasuke agreed with Sakura. While he was not as familiar with the Kage Bushin as the others were, he had heard how risky it was for anyone, even Jonin level ninja like their sensei Kakashi, to make a large number of Kage Bushin. But Naruto had just made an entire army. What the heck is he? The army of Kage Bushin unleashed a powerful barrage of attacks at a badly weakened Gaara, and they were tossing Gaara about like he was a chew toy. Naruto knew that he would need to hurry. Well, he had Gaara on the ropes. He doubted it would remain that way for long, since Gaara was not the kind of guy to give up easily, not to mention that demon inside of him could soon awaken and allow Gaara the chance to counterattack. It was not long before Naruto's worries became reality as the sand that fell all over the place that fell from Gaara's monster sand form suddenly came to life and attacked him from behind. He moved away, but his Kage Bushin were not as lucky as they were destroyed en masses as they were about to unleash a massive wave of kicks on Gaara that would utterly shatter his sand armor as well as injure him greatly. However, even though the sand came back to shield Gaara, the damage from Naruto's attacks was already evident as Gaara was bleeding on the forehead as well as on the left arm and right leg. The blood was there on his clothes as well as his flesh, and he was in shock and rage. He had never endured the kind of pummeling the blonde had given him. He was able to shrug off Rock Lee's attacks, and while he had been wounded by Sasuke, Sasuke never got to wound him again. But this blonde ninja was assaulting him in ways that he had never been exposed to, and the fact that he was still alive even after he was using all his best attacks to kill him made the already emotionally unstable Gaara lose more of his self-control. He had enough of this, and he was going to end this blonde ninja's life one way or the other. Naruto was still in his Dragon Ascendant state, using the wind elemental form as he watched Gaara, intent on making sure that he was ready to counter the moves that Gaara would use to attack him when he least expected it. He had observed enough to know that Gaara was not going to take the attacks lying down, and he would have to make his first move. Gaara knew that he had to do something fast in order to finally defeat this blonde ninja, who was proving to be a real tough warrior, and that was when he decided to finally let the beast in him out. With that, Gaara went deep in his psyche, and the very second he was in his own mind. He unleashed the demon inside of himself. The sand around him quickly reacted to his wishes, and soon enough, the sand began to grow even more and then suddenly exploded all over the place in an apparent instant. Naruto was about to attack when he saw what was happening and quickly moved away to get some room, and the move proved to be a good one as a massive fountain of sand erupted from where Gaara was on the battlefield. Naruto managed to shield his face from the sand, and so did Temari, Sasuke, Sakura, and Fenrix as well. In the moment, they looked and Temari was in fear as she saw the form that was before her. She had never seen Gaara this desperate enough to use this form. It was already horrifying to see Gaara in his semi-sand raccoon form while he was still in human form, but it was also impressive to see this blonde genin named Naruto being able to stand up against Gaara and fight him well. Now it seemed that Gaara had enough of this and was going to finish this fight one way or the other. Gaara looked down at Naruto through the trees and glared at the Dragon Ascendant as Naruto looked back at him. I will defeat you, Naruto Uzumaki. Your death by my hand will become the true symbol of my existence. Gaara was now on top of the head of a massive figure of sand. The sand seemed to be alive in some fashion, as the sand crystals were reflecting the light. The sand also had violet lining as well. The figure resembled a raccoon with the same eyes that seemed to be like that of his raccoon sand form, while Gaara was now bare of the sand that had once covered him before he used this transformation. The form was massive, easily as higher than the mountain face that formed the Hokage monument behind Konoha. Hami. That guy. He's no ordinary ninja. Sasuke and Sakura gasped at the monster side of the sand raccoon that was before them. They had never seen anything like this in their lives before. They both thought Gaara was not ordinary. Now the sight of this massive sand monster was really unexpected. Sasuke couldn't help but wonder just how Naruto was going to fight his way out of this one. Fenrix however looked on, hoping to see just what his student was going to do now with the threat before him. This was going to be a real test. Naruto's powers were going to have to be used tactically instead of just in the need to overwhelm this foe. Naruto. You may have to use all you have to even up the odds with Gaara. Do what you can in order to defeat him. Wow. Big. Naruto moved back and quickly grabbed onto a massive tree as Gaara unleashed a massive sandstorm with chakra-enhanced wind right at his face. The dragon ascendant dug in his hands and summoned his claws on his fingertips to hold himself in position to avoid being suddenly dragged all the way out. The blast of sand and air was immense and howling as Naruto held on as best he could from the attack itself. The move worked for a minute or two until the blast ripped Naruto off his location. The blonde genin quickly flipped out of the way as the blast unleashed rocks and trees, as well as massive amounts of hard soil right at his face. He managed to avoid being blinded until 3 arms made of sand came right at him. He evaded one and destroyed the other, but Gaara created 4 more arms of sand and attacked Naruto, forcing the blonde on the defensive in order to even things up before Gaara. Gaara however had enough of this and unleashed a massive tsunami wave of sand that leaped out in Naruto's direction, forcing Naruto to move away. As the sand covered the area before him, he moved to the tree tops and so had Temari, Sasuke, Sakura, and Fenrix. However, the spreading of the sand was bad news as Gaara suddenly unleashed a massive wall of sand to rise up and surround Naruto, and Naruto tried to escape, but tendrils of sand came at him and quickly grabbed his legs, preventing his escape as the sand encased him, leaving his head exposed. Naruto glared at Gaara and then the sand constricted around Naruto. Ugh. Naruto gasped as he felt the sand begin to surround his body and he felt his body scream more in pain as he tried to free himself from Gaara's grip as the sand continued to surround him. He knew he had to do something fast before he was crushed by the sand arm of the massive sand construct of Gaara. The threat was further magnified as several massive blades made from hardened sand surrounded Naruto on sand tendrils and were dancing endlessly around him, all like snakes, eager to bite into a struggling target. Temari was looking on at this in horror at the moment. I've never seen Gaara this determined before. This is not going to be good. Gaara laughed as he continued to add the pressure on Naruto and then unleashed the sand blades at him. Now die. Naruto however was not giving up just yet as he decided to even it up as he switched to another elemental power, and that was lightning, and he shouted out. Lightning shield. The massive arcs of lighting that came out of Naruto's form was enough to cut through the sand that covered his body. The blonde then slammed his hands into the sand. That action was enough to destroy the sand blades coming towards him and send arcs of lightning right at Gaara, but Naruto knew better than to think that the worst was over as Gaara managed to create some diamond spikes from his sand and redirect the lightning away from his body to prevent him from suffering any lasting damage. Gaara unleashed more massive sand spikes as Naruto did his best to dodge and evade as Gaara gathered his sand back to himself. As soon as he got some distance, Naruto knew that now was the time for him to use that was given to him by Jiraiya. Despite powers, he was not skilled enough to take on a foe that size, but he knew just what or rather who could. Back in Konoha. The battle in Konoha was quickly turning to the favor of the Konoha ninjas as more of their forces came into the battle. They had prepared ahead and all the civilians had already been secretly evacuated from the combat zone to lower the risk of heavy losses. Now it was time for the counterattack and it seemed that a number of the sound and sand ninja were getting a full-blown introduction to the various clans that resided in the village of Konoha. Inoichi used his clan's mind-body switch technique on his foes, making them turn on one another. Chaozu unleashed his clan's multi-size technique to crush right through a large number of sound and sand ninja, and Shikaku used the shadow manipulation ability of his own clan to fight the attackers. They were not the only ones either as the Anbu under Yuzuki Yugao's command came in to fight as well. Hayashi also used the Byakugan to his best advantage against his attackers, while Tsumin Yuzuka and Hana in Yuzuka with their animal companions also got into the act and fought with the sound and sand ninja. Sarutobi looked on at the sight before him and smiled. Despite the fact that the Kusanagi was deep in his back with his animal summon, the Monkey King Enma held on. The battle between the two of them started with a number of battles to even things between them, with Orochimaru revealing the full extent of his corruption and lust for power. Seeing that Orochimaru had done this further weighed heavily on the old man, as he knew now how far her former student had fallen. He had always told Jiraiya to be like Orochimaru in learning his ways of being a ninja, but when Orochimaru turned into the man he was now before his eyes, he knew that he should have done something, but he felt that he could try to steer Orochimaru to turn away from the dark path he had started to walk on, but his pleading fell to deaf ears. He made the right move to have Jiraiya's student take the place of Hokage. For he was truly a good man and the kind of man that was right for the position of Hokage. He had a chance to end Orochimaru's cruelty and evil when they tracked him down in the lab, when the extent of his crimes became apparent. And he saw the extent of his former student's crimes. He could have stopped it right there and then since he was not as old as he is now, but he failed. He let his past with Orochimaru blind him from doing what he should have, and Orochimaru escaped. Now he had a chance and he was not going to waste it. However, Orochimaru wasted no time of his own as he brought forth the first and second Hokages to life, using another one of his dark and using the bodies of his own followers as sacrifices, the two surviving Sound Genin, since Dosu had been slain by Gaara, since the former Sound Genin tried to slay Gaara. The battle between him and the former living Hokages was difficult indeed, as Orochimaru had turned the former sibling leaders of Konoha into obedient servants of his own. He had succeeded in preventing the next coffin that held the fourth Hokage from rising, as he knew the danger of facing the ninja called Konoha's Yellow Flash, but even if he prevented the fourth from rising from his grave and allowing his remains to be left undisturbed, the sight that greeted him when the coffins opened was too much. And he knew that he was in for the fight of his life. Sarutobi knew that he was not going to have an easy chance in fighting his former teachers, even with Monkey King Enma on his side, but he was not going to give up without a fight. The first Hokage was the only known user of a Kekai Genkai that allowed him to summon trees into combat, and before Naruto was awakened to his own Kekai Genkai, was the only known user of such an ability, and the second Hokage was then the only known master of water-based jutsu without a water source nearby. The two had pushed him to the limits, and since they were already dead to begin with, even his best attacks were not that effective in defeating them. That and the fact that he was already an old man played a factor in the fight itself, as he no longer had the same level of ability that he had when he was younger and had the title of professor. However, he was not the kind to give up despite the dangers before him and then used a powerful something handed down to him by the fourth Hokage when he stepped down from the position of being Hokage all those years ago. The jutsu known as the Shiki Fujin Jutsu was a technique that allowed a ninja to summon the power of the god of death, an entity that feasted on the souls of those who died in battle or those he had been summoned to consume specifically. This was the ultimate way to end an enemy's life, but it was a double-edged sword. To do this, the user had to allow himself to be taken by the death god, with the death god using his or her soul as payment for the summoning. The worst was that when the target soul had been consumed by the god of death, then the summoner would also join the soul of the one they had targeted to fight in the belly of the god of death for eternity. It was a high price, but in his mind, it was a price he was willing to pay for his own mistake in letting Orochimaru escape and unleash terror in the world all those years ago. He was trapped by the second Hokage in the first, but battled on as he used the jutsu, and then with great effort and the use of his Kage Bushin, he was able to restrain both the former Hokages and then extract their souls, but not before sharing fateful words with his former mentors, as well as the souls of the Kage Bushin, as they faded into smoke. And it was in that moment as well that he was then able to see the extent of his former student's madness, as well as his complete lack of humanity and empathy for human life, as the now soulless bodies fell to the ground in heaps of dust and ash. Two of the Sound Genin team sent to kill Sasuke revealed themselves in the ashes of the first and the second Hokage. Kin and Zaku lay before him, their bodies already pale and dead, their eyes widened in horror and pain, as they had no doubt were unaware of what they had just been subjected to by Orochimaru when he had taken them to see the two caskets of the Hokages. This further angered Sarutobi as he looked at the two dead ninja and then to his former student, calling him truly mad for willingly using his own people like this. Orochimaru merely laughed and said that they were pawns, nothing more. That angered the elderly Hokage, and he made his move to restrain Orochimaru, allowing the former Konoha Sannin to see the god of death for the very first time in his life. This led to the current situation as Orochimaru had acted out of a desire to avoid the fates of both the first and the second Hokage by calling his Kusanagi sword to stab and kill Sarutobi from behind him. The elderly Hokage was caught off guard but fought off the pain and shock and still was intent on ending his former student's life. However, he could feel his own life fading as Orochimaru tried to escape once more, and in that moment, the old Hokage knew that he cannot take Orochimaru's soul completely, and he decided on the next best thing, a fitting punishment for the former Sannin and student of his. Back in the battle between Gaara and Naruto. Naruto focused on himself and then bit his finger to draw blood and then placed it on the tree branch and hoped for the best. He had only done this once, and thus he hoped that he would get this one right. He recalled just how he had been able to gain the use of this, and it was also when he was finally able to come face to face with none other than the Kyuubi itself. Flashback to a nearby valley. Naruto was busy training with both Fenrix and Jiraiya as the Sannin and the senior dragon ascendant watched Naruto spar with not just a large number of his own Kage Bushin, but several of Jiraiya's own Kage Bushin. As the blonde fought with his Kage Bushin as well as learning the foundations of his new technique in using his Kekai Genkai and being able to switch and utilize the 5 elements, the two chatted for a while. While Fenrix was already aware of Naruto's secret lineage, it made him feel more at ease with talking to Jiraiya. He knew that from the records from his own master Valen, that Jiraiya was the sensei of the former 4th Hokage who was blood related to Naruto. He also knew of the legacy of the 4th Hokage, and the reason why no one knew just how closely related Naruto was to the 4th Hokage. It was something that the Dragon Ascendant could understand in his own fashion. The 4th Hokage was a remarkable man, and so was his wife. It was a shame that both were not about to see their son grow up. As they finished their discussion, the Sannin decided to push forward his idea, and Fenrix had to admit that despite knowing full well about the ability Jiraiya had in the sense of being able to summon frogs. Giving this ability to Naruto would further supplement his already growing abilities and would be handy in the battles that were soon to come. Besides, he had been familiar with animal summons before in his younger days, though not in the way he did in Naruto's world. He knew that like other worlds that had dragons that resided in them, there had been ascendants and dragons in this world. However, Naruto's world had a different history than the other worlds, once home to dragons and other ascendants like himself. The creatures left in the land had changed for many centuries, ever since the exodus of the dragons, the dragon kings and the loyalist ascendants from the realms and worlds. With the approval of both Jiraiya and his dragon ascendant teacher, Naruto decided to focus his powers, as well as being able to tap into the power of the Kyuubi. He knew that this was not going to be easy. Fenrix had explained to him that the Kyuubi had managed to contain his dragon ascendant powers when he was younger, and the Kyuubi would no doubt be in a very foul mood should the two of them finally meet face to face. He had asked if there was some way to force the Kyuubi out of him, but the senior ascendant replied that the idea was too risky in the sense that he and the Kyuubi were bound long before he was given the powers of the blood ascension ceremony, and therefore the removal of the Kyuubi could very well kill him. Naruto was not very happy with the news, but decided to make the most of it. He wrote his name on the scroll and then began to focus his chakra. However, he decided to pay the Kyuubi a visit. He quickly found himself before a massive gate, and there was some sort of paper seal. Before he could make sense of where he was at the moment, a massive roar was heard, and he looked to see 2 glowing red eyes behind the bars, which were quickly followed by what appeared to be a massive form, and sure enough he was quick to stay where he was, as she could see the outline of a paw with some very nasty claws. So, my jailer decided to pay me a visit. Naruto recovered from the surprise, and then spoke to the being before him, who he now recognized. "You're the Kyuubi, aren't you? Very good, brat, though I doubt I can call you that since your powers as an ascendant are now awakened, though restrained. Had I moved faster all those years ago, I would have been able to fully restrain that power. However, that idiot with the snake powers interfered with another of my attempts to seal away your Dragon King powers for good. Do you know about it?" "Yes, I do. I was hoping to seal its powers away, but the consecrated blood of a Dragon King is nigh impossible to seal easily, and now that it's unleashed from my attempts, there's nothing I can do to contain it. I cannot kill you since you contain me, and should you die, then I will die, but since your Dragon Ascendant's powers are awakened, I have no chance of even remotely harming you to begin with. So what do you want from me?" Naruto then spoke about gaining the chakra of the Kyuubi, and with that the Kyuubi growled and replied. "You already have the power of the Dragon Ascendants, and they were more than able to outmatch even my power in the past, though that was when I was younger and more naive, and you have the consecrated blood of a Dragon King flowing in your veins as well. What kind of help could I possibly give you?" "You can give me help when I can't use my ascendant powers, you furball. I doubt you'd like it if you were only stuck behind that cage all your life, besides that you're my tenant, so you owe me rent." "I owe you rent?" "Damn right you do. You've been with me for the past 12 years of my life, and in those 12 years, you've made my life miserable, so I think it's high time you gave back something for all the trouble you caused." Kyuubi growled and then replied. "Very well then, here is my power, so use it well. You may have potential to surpass me, but until then you had better not die." In that moment, after returning from the area where the Kyuubi had been sealed away, Naruto felt the power of the Kyuubi fill him, and then he bit his finger to draw the blood, after he had felt the level of chakra he had grow and be more than enough for any he might use, though now was the time to see if the chakra he had from his own reserves and the chakra of the Kyuubi was enough. He then placed his hand on the ground and saw the symbols and shouted out the command for them to be used. "Fuchius no Jutsu." In that moment a massive surge of energy was felt by everyone in the area, and there in a moment was a massive cloud of smoke that was reaching upwards. Naruto stepped back a bit but was quickly taken to the top as he was now deep in the smoke. The whole thing lasted for a moment or two, and then Naruto found himself on top of what felt like Cloth, he stood up and found himself on top of something that was massive, and that from the fact that he could feel it moving up and down, as well as hearing breathing sounds, it was alive as well. He leaped off and then turned to see just what he had summoned on his first try. Naruto was struck dumb by the sight of the massive toad that was before him at this moment. The creature had deep red skin and had on a pipe in its mouth, as well as a massive open jacket on it, and what appeared to be a massive sheath with a short sword on it. He had never expected to be summoning a massive creature like this on his first try. But he had to admit that the sight was very good to him to be able to get this far. The toad then looked about and then spotted Jiraiya and spoke. "Well now, it seems I finally got summoned in a place that is not the least bit uncomfortable or strange, but still, there seems to be no fighting happening here Jiraiya, so why am I summoned you pervert?" Jiraiya laughed at that and then spoke towards the big toad. "Actually I didn't summon you Gamabunta, the young man over there did." Gamabunta looked at Naruto and seemed to sniff him a bit and then he removed his pipe and gave out a long smoke. As soon as he was done, the toad summoned spoke. "The Dragon Ascendant. And such a young one too, I never thought the day would come I'd meet one again, much less have one as my newly contracted summoner. Tell me, what's your name?" Naruto could tell that this toad summon was very powerful just by being near him, his Dragon Ascendant senses were pulsing from the power coming from the massive toad. Apart from that, Fenrix had taught him to respect those with power, especially those of a nature that was not that of the human form, and this toad before him was one of them, and he gave his name. Naruto Uzumaki, and who are you?" I am Gamabunta, chief of all toad summons. Normally I would expect a greater deal of respect from a summoner, but as a dragon ascendant, I will let that slide for now, you however had better call me Chief Toad the next time we meet." As soon as that was out of the way, Gamabunta turned his attention to Jiraiya and then spoke to the Sannin. "Now then Jiraiya, your young friend here succeeded in summoning me, but there seems to be no fighting involved, so either I go back home or we have a sake drinking session." "I should have known you'd say that Gamabunta, by the way, does nice work on your summoning Naruto, though summoning Gamabunta on your first try was a bit much." Naruto gave a slight laugh, as well as scratching the back of his head, and Fenrix was then examined by Gamabunta as the senior ascendant looked at the chief toad. The giant toad then spoke to the older ascendant. "Yet another ascendant. I never thought your race would ever return to this world, I was still at Tadpole when your race decided to leave this land after the other ascendants started rebelling, what brings your kind back here I wonder?" Fenrix then replied. "That will be a very long story in Gamabunta." The toad summon nodded and then spoke to Naruto. "Now then, if you want to be able to command me, you will have to share a drink of good sake with me as well as Jiraiya, and considering that you are a dragon ascendant, I think you will be able to stomach the sake." Naruto had hoped to resist the idea, but Fenrix told him that it was alright and he joined the group in a sake drinking session. It was not long before Naruto got to taste sake for the very first time in his life, while he was still young by human standards. The fact that he now had the constitution of a dragon meant that he was a lot more resistant to the effects of drinking sake or any alcoholic beverage for that matter, and he had to admit that he was developing a liking to sake. Gamabunta was happy to see his newest summoner was getting deep into the spirit of things and had quite a resistance, and he poured even more. Jiraiya had to admit that he was worried about Naruto the very second the young blonde ninja would drink the sake. The young blonde was quick to develop a liking for sake, despite the fact that he was technically underage for drinking liquor. The blonde had to admit that there was a part of him that wondered just what sake tasted, and while it did burn his mouth somewhat. The drinking session lasted well into the night, and as soon as he was tucked away, Gamabunta had considered the young man a newbie in the art of drinking, but pretty good to have downed a number of bottles with him, Fenrix and Jiraiya. End of flashback. The next day he woke up with only a slight buzz, that being the only result of his drinking at least 3 sake bottles in one session. Now that might not have sounded like much at face value, but in reality, the sake bottles that Gamabunta brought with him were about the size of small storage sheds. He placed that aside and summoned his chakra as well as his dragon ascendant powers and shouted out the command. Kuchius no Jutsu. The area was once more surrounded by a massive blast of smoke, and there before the massive sand raccoon under the command of Gaara was Gamabunta with Naruto right on top of his head, and he was using his chakra to hold himself steady on the toad summon head at this moment. Naruto was relieved he was able to pull off the sum. Temari gasped as she looked at the sight before her. She was instructed in all the needed information about Konoha, as well as its known allies, and therefore she recognized just what or rather who the blonde ninja had summoned. "I don't believe it. That blonde could do such a high-level summon. He's supposed to be a genin." Temari was among the very few genin in the history of Suna to be able to summon an animal summon for combat, yet this young man from Konoha could summon such a high-level summon, which would have demanded a great level of chakra. This Naruto was proving to be one very deadly threat in combat. Incredible. Sakura spoke out as she saw Naruto summon Gamabunta. She had no idea just where Naruto learned that, but it was certainly one for the record books. Back in the confrontation. Gamabunta looked at the sight before him and spoke to the blonde ninja and dragon ascendant. So what sort of mess is it this time, Naruto? Looks like you're fighting the Shukaku and the Jinchuriki from the looks of it. Naruto was rather surprised at that. He was not expecting the giant leader of the Toad summons to know just who it was that he was fighting. You know Shukaku? The massive toad nodded and replied. I have been in this world for a very long time, Naruto, and I have seen thee in all their power. However, this one who controls and houses the Shukaku appears to not have allowed himself to fall asleep yet. We should defeat him now before he decides to use some sort of to place himself into sleep. When he does, then we're going to be in for it. Right. Let's get him, Boss Toad. Gamabunta then took out his dagger, and the two attacked. Gamabunta sliced off the arm of the massive sand construct that replicated the sand raccoon demon, and the fight was well underway, with Naruto unleashing attacks of his own to supplement the attacks used by Gamabunta in fighting Gaara and the massive sand form that he was currently using in combat. Gaara managed to use the sand to block most of Naruto attacks until the blonde shouted out his Kage Bushin, and then he was joined by 4 more Kage Bushin, and then the sand ninja was now facing gusts of wind, walls of earth, waves of water, bursts of fire and bolts of lightning from the blonde genin, who was still proving to be quite a pest, and Gamabunta added to that by unleashing a number of deadly water attacks, showing that he was able to use water-based. Befitting his nature as an animal summon who was attuned to water. Water bullet. The massive blasts of water slammed hard as Gaara managed to shield himself, as well as resisting the attack of lightning from one of the Kage Bushin that was there with Naruto. He growled and then decided to finally end this fight once and for all. As Gamabunta used his short sword to tear off yet another part of the body of the sand form of his tailed beast, the young sand genin decided to use that, the one he had never resorted to for a long time, but now had no choice but to use to finally kill Naruto. I will kill you. Gamabunta quickly recognized the technique about to be used by Gaara and spoke. That is not good. That boy is going to let himself be put to sleep using a. What good will that do him anyway? That boy, as you might have found out, is the container of the Shukaku. I know for a fact that demon beast is a violent being that loves nothing more than overwhelm the mind of its current host, and I can bet that young man's been trying to stay awake to keep that blasted monster from consuming his entire mind. The Shukaku's a bloodthirsty creature and no doubt demands sacrifices and blood to satisfy itself, and that kid does it to placate the thing. Kami? Is that what made Gaara become a monster? That is possible. But we have no time. The second that works, we won't be fighting that kid anymore, we'll be fighting the Shukaku. And sure enough, it was not long before Gaara succeeded in putting himself to sleep, and then the Shukaku came out, and Naruto could tell that Gamabunta was right. The Shukaku was indeed crazy, as well as bloodthirsty, as it talked like it was drunk and wanted to kill them both. They were forced on the defensive at this point, as the Shukaku began to unleash massive blasts of pure chakra-enhanced air. Gamabunta then told Naruto that the only way to repress the Shukaku was to wake Gaara up with a strike. However, that was not going to be simple, as Gamabunta had to do his best to avoid the powerful attacks of the Shukaku, lest they take a fatal hit. Naruto decided to do his absolute best to slow down Gaara and the Shukaku, after Gamabunta told him that the only way to stop the Shukaku's rampage was to strike at Gaara to wake him up and ensure that the spell would be broken, banishing the Shukaku back into the recesses of Gaara's mind. He understood that the best chance they had was to restrain the Shukaku long enough for a strike to be used on Gaara. However, he knew that the boss Toad would not be able to hold on for long due to not having the limbs to grab onto the Shukaku since he was a toad, so he decided to try a different approach. I got an idea, Boss Toad. Then go for it, kid. I doubt we'll be able to keep up this dodging game for long. Naruto quickly had his Kage Bushin, who was a user of the fire element, to aim for the Shukaku's legs and free arm when he could, while the 2 other Kage Bushin, who could use both earth and wind, to try and create sand. The plan seemed odd, but Naruto knew that if he got this right, he could have a chance to allow Gamabunta to get him closer. The fire-wielding Kage Bushin went to work on aiming at the legs of the Shukaku, making the massive creature even angrier, while the other 2 Kage Bushin continued to attack with earth and wind to create sand. The attack was working despite the fact that he could sense his powers beginning to fade, as he was using a considerable portion of his powers for this move. The attack continued and Shukaku was getting annoyed. Hold still so I can kill you. Gamabunta retorted as he leaped away. Not going to happen. Naruto knew that he had to hurry, but doing this was not as easy as one might think. He focused on defending himself and Gamabunta at the same time, while attacking the massive sand form of Shukaku, and the situation was not looking very promising as the battle continued to grow in intensity. However, the young ninja and dragon ascendant was not going to give up, as he and his Kage Bushin continued to do the best they could in order to stop Shukaku. It took a lot of energy to make the amounts of sand that he needed, as well as attacking the Shukaku while holding on to Gamabunta, but now he had a chance, and then he summoned yet another brand of Cage Bushin, and they all were of the fire element, and they all directed their attack at Shukaku's limbs, just as the two other Cage Bushin using earth and wind respectively, guided the created sand at the limbs of the Shukaku. Blazing wave. All 6 Cage Bushin unleashed massive tongues of fire, as well as fire from their mouths, and the fire hit the sand that the 2 other Cage Bushin sent at the Shukaku. The sand raccoon demon laughed and was about to close the gap to blast Gamabunta and Naruto point blank with its chakra-enhanced wind bullet, but then to its shock, its limbs were encased in solid diamond crystals. What the? Go for it, boss Toad. Gamabunta quickly moved in and grabbed the Shukaku, as the creature couldn't move as the massive crystals made from diamond had encased the legs and free arm for a good amount of time. Gamabunta realized that the previous attacks with flame were not meant to harm the Shukaku, but to change the composition of the sand, as well as get it ready to be transformed into diamond crystal. The Toad summon was finally able to grab the Shukaku, and Naruto quickly gathered himself to the attack. His body was exhausted from all he had done, but he was far from out of the fight, and as he closed in and readied his fist, he aimed to wake Gaara with one blow. Hey you. Wake up. Whap. The blow was hard enough to send Gaara moving to the side, not enough to kill him, as Naruto's strength was lower than before due to the previous battles and his lower energy reserves. The blow however was more than enough to wake Gaara from the sleeping, and the Shukaku roared as well as swore as it was banished back into the recesses of Gaara's mind. "MIT. I just got out. I'll get you for this." But that Gaara was now aware and felt the massive pain in his body as he glared at Naruto, who glared right back at him, and before Naruto could attack to finish him off, the brother of Kankuro and Temari unleashed several more tendrils of sand to restrain Naruto and crush him, but Gamabunta was able to shield the boy with his tongue, despite the fact that the tendrils of sand were sharpened like diamond blades and drew blood from the tongue of the massive Toad summon. But Gaara was far from defeated as he gathered his chakra and controlled the sand all over the area where he and Naruto were once more and began to fight back. Inside the area sealed off by Gamabunta's tongue, Naruto felt the sand wrapping around him, and he knew that even if the tongue of the boss Toad shielded him, he still had to get out, and he decided to do what he could with the energy he had left and changed to his water element, and then unleashed a massive blast of icy mist, and the sand froze around him as Gamabunta finally couldn't hang on anymore and released his tongue. Gamabunta watched as Naruto fought free and finally hit Gaara with yet another blow that finally sent the sand falling apart and breaking as well. The Toad summon watched as the sand raccoon construct fell to pieces and smiled mentally to himself as he spoke. "That boy has got power and guts, this will be worth seeing to the end, but not for me, my chakra is out, not bad kid, you might become as good as the 4th, or even better, if we meet again, I think we need to share some drinks." But that Gamabunta faded away in a puff of smoke as both Gaara and Naruto looked at one another after landing 2 opposing tree tope. In Konoha. "Ooh." That was the only scream that was heard in the massive barrier that kept Hiruzen, Sarutobi and Orochimaru locked in combat with one another, and the scream was that of Orochimaru, as he had just witnessed something that made him afraid as well as horrified. Hiruzen had allowed the god of death to consume the arms of Orochimaru's soul and deny him the use of his arsenal. He coughed as he felt the god of death take his soul as well, and he used his last moments of life to speak. A fitting punishment for one so obsessed with power. "Farewell, my foolish student. I am sad I will never get to finish you the way I wanted to. You old fool. Give me back my arms." As he fell to the ground, Sarutobi saw the faces of his former teachers, the first and the second Hokage, their words echoing in his mind. He then thought of all the people he had met and known, the young people of the village, and those who he called family, and then he thought of Naruto, as well as his meeting with Valen and Fenrix. He smiled at that, and then looked to see the face of Orochimaru, but it was not the face of the madman before him. But the face of the quiet, kind, honest, skilled and gentle young man he once was so long ago. And in that moment, he died. Monkey King Enma spoke his final words and removed the sword from Hiruzen's back, and he himself faded away in a puff of smoke. Orochimaru was angered at the fate he had killed his sensei, but his plan to destroy Konoha and claim Sasuke had failed for this day, and the loss of his arms was something that he knew would haunt him until the time was right. He moved away as the burning pain filled him as his arms were now dead to the world. He could move them, but he could never use any until the time came. "Orochimaru-sama." Orochimaru turned to his elite group of ninja from sound and spoke seriously. "This mission is over, deactivate the barrier." But that done, the barrier that had sealed him and Hiruzen in the battlefield was removed and a group of loyal sound genin took him away. The Konoha Anbu tired to follow, but were unable to as they were restrained by one of the sound genin, who manufactured some form of web to catch them. At the bottom, Kakashi, Guy, and Genma were facing Baki and the now revealed Kabuto, and as the two were about to leave, Kabuto then spoke seriously to Kakashi. It seems you have quite the handful of ninja, one has the Sharingan and the others possesses a Kekai Genkai that is unheard of, make sure that you train both of them well Kakashi, sooner or later, Sasuke-kun will be on the side of Orochimaru-sama and I will find out what makes Naruto-kun that powerful, mark my words on that. As Kabuto and Baki left the scene, Kakashi halted both Guy and Genma and they all gathered the remaining Jonin including Asuma and Yuhi Kurenai, as well as Mitarashi Anko herself, and they quickly made their way to the roof, but not before freeing the Anbu to be on the safe side of things. They could only hope that their Hokage was still alive and safe. Back in the valley. Naruto and Gaara lay on the ground for what seemed like an eternity, both exhausted beyond normal human limits, and it seemed that time had stood still for merely a moment. Gaara had never felt this way, he had been pushed further and greater than he had ever been in his whole life by this blonde ninja from Konoha. He had pushed him to summon even Shukaku, and still he couldn't beat this blonde ninja named Naruto Uzumaki. What the hell is he? The sand shinobi turned and to his horror, the once unconscious Naruto began to rise and move towards him, his eyes filled with killing intent. Gaara looked on and shouted out in desperation as he felt fear and terror, it was so thick and so strong in him he felt like he was going to choke on it all. No. Stay away from me. Naruto got up and moved closer and then summoned a blade of wind into his hand, but since in terms of ascendance, his powers were still very young, so the sword vanished and he fell to his knees. He tried to get up and focus on stopping Gaara from getting up. Gaara tried to move, but his body was badly drained of chakra. Naruto was pushed to his limit and by most records, he would not have been able to get up after what he had done to face Gaara. Naruto however managed to move his body once more and get to his knees and began to stand up, falling once more to the ground showing just. But to his shock, Naruto was not showing a look of eagerness in killing him, but sadness and regret. What the? It's painful to be alone. Isn't it? Naruto felt his body reach his limits, his powers were not that strong, not like Fenrik's, and as such, he had to dig deep into himself and summon the power of the Kyuubi for the first time in his life now as a dragon ascendant, but he was not the kind to just give up as he struggled to get himself to Gaara to stop him. However he decided to speak to Gaara at this moment. I know how that feels, just like you do. What? Naruto managed to get enough strength to reach a nearby tree and sit down just for a second, and he spoke. You and I. We are the same. How can you say that? You and I are not alike. Remember when? We were in the hospital and I said I had a demon in me as well. I wasn't lying about that. What? I am like you Gaara, I too contain a demon and the Kyuubi is inside me. Gaara wanted to deny it, but something deep in his mind told him that there was no lie in the way Naruto spoke, and as he looked at the blonde who stared back at him, he could tell that the blonde ninja meant each word. He then saw Naruto reveal the mark, and while the seal was not the same as his was, he could see that it was a very complex and powerful seal, something used only to contain something of immense power. That was the proof Gaara needed to see to know that Naruto was correct in stating that they were the same. But, there is a difference between you and me. I have friends, people I care about in this world, I won't hurt anyone, including you. If I have to kill you to stop you Gaara, I will. Naruto then moved forward despite the injuries he had since the fighting. Gaara managed to finally find some level of strength to move, but only to reach a nearby rock and sit up on it, and he spoke then to Naruto, amazed that even after the pounding they both went through, and the fact that he was out of strength, the blonde ninja who was like him, still had what it took to move. Why do you fight for them so much? Why? Don't you fight for yourself? Because they saved me from becoming lost in hatred, pain, suffering, torment and anger, they saved me from my own hell. They gave me purpose, they gave me a place to call home, and they are friends. And I will fight for them to my last breath. Naruto tried to get closer, but it was then that Fenrix as well as Sasuke and Sakura arrived on the scene. Sasuke spoke to Naruto. Hey, that's enough. This fight's over, you've won, he's got no strength left to fight back. Sakura also nodded and spoke. You don't have to do this anymore Naruto, this fight is over. Naruto smiled at that and fell to the ground, the two members of his team became worried, but Fenrix shook his head with a smile. He's fine. He needs to just rest. The others faced Gaara just as Temari and Kankuro showed up, the two siblings looked at their brother shocked at how badly beaten and exhausted he looked at the moment, they then faced the group, while Sakura and Sasuke got ready for a possible attack, while Fenrix replied as he revealed his own tattoos, and they color swirled, showing that while he had no doubt he could beat them easily, he was not going to waste his energy on them, this fight was over, so there was no need for him to fight. You will gain nothing staying here, this fight is over, your side lost. He's right. This is enough, the plan failed. The Mari and Kankuro turned to their brother, and Kankuro decided to help their brother out of the area, and so did Tamari, after seeing how Naruto fought with their brother, and knowing now that Fenrix was far greater in terms of power and ability than Naruto, they would stand no chance before him. With that in mind, the three left the scene, allowing Fenrix to carry Naruto on his back, while Sasuke and Sakura rallied with both Shikamaru and Shino, as well as Shino's father and Asuma, while the senior dragon ascendant unleashed his wings to fly back to Konoha. There in the village of Konoha, the bad news of the death of the third Hokage was already moving about, dampening the victory earned by the forces of Konoha at the loss of their leader. However, they saw on his face a smile showing that while he died, he was happy to have given his all in the defense of the village. And that's it for episode 2. If you enjoyed the story and want episode 3, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more what if stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.